This work session of the Board of Education of the Cleveland Metropolitan School District will come to order. Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll.
Ms. Ellicott?
Here.
Mr. Billups?
Here.
Mr. Briggs?
Here.
Ms. Jones?
Here.
Pastor Jones?
Here.
Mrs. LeBron?
Here.
Mrs. Peak?
Here.
Dr. Sridhar?
Here.
Mrs. Welch-Howe?
Here.
There are 9 members present.
Thank you. Ask everyone who wishes to rise and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start with our period of public participation. Usually the board has public participation at our board business meetings, but since we had to cancel our January 27th board business meeting due to inclement weather, we are providing public participation at this work session for those who originally signed up to speak at the January 27th business meeting, and for others who signed up to speak since that meeting. Each speaker is invited to address the board for up to 3 minutes each. The timer will be visible on the screen, and we ask each speaker to respect this limit. If the timer goes off and you're mid-sentence, please finish your sentence, and then we'll ask you to leave the podium for the next speaker. We'll start with Logan Gernacki. Logan Gernacki. Nathaniel McKinnon. Nathaniel McKinnon. Zuleika Luciano. Zuleika Luciano. Lori Checo. Lori Checo. Aretha Jackson. Aretha Jackson. Keith McNeil. Keith McNeil. Joelle Bosk. Joelle Bosk. Abigail Goulbourne. Abigail Goulbourne. Ferris Bueller. All right. That concludes our period of public participation. This evening's consent agenda includes the minutes of the last board meeting, 7 legal resolutions, 1 strategic operations resolution, 3 finance resolutions, 1 academic resolution, and 4 excellence and culture resolutions that were all originally on the consent agenda for the canceled January 27th board business meeting, and 4 legal resolutions on the consent agenda for this meeting. The chair will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of agenda items 4.02 through 10.04 as set forth in the board meeting agenda.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Pastor Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBron?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Dr. Sridhar?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch-Howe?
Yes.
The motion passes with 9 votes.
Thank you. The motion passes, the minutes are approved, and the 20 resolutions are adopted. This evening's board meeting agenda also includes an additional 15 resolutions in the areas of finance, academics, operations, and excellence and culture, which the board will vote on as part of the consent agenda at our February 24th board business meeting. The board will now hold its monthly monitoring of goals and guardrails. Dr. Morgan, over to you.
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Before we get into our goals and guardrails, and for this month, we had the ones that we were supposed to do last time, as well as the one we were doing today. We will be looking at chronic absenteeism. We will also be looking at our freshmen on track. So looking forward to diving into that. Some other areas we're going to do progress monitoring on before getting to our goals and guardrails. I'm going to bring up our CFO, who's going to give our budget report in terms of where we are for this month, and then we're also going to do an update on where we are for building brighter futures before going into the goals and guardrails. So I'll bring up Chief Stockdale to give an update on our finances.
All right. The presentation tonight will be fairly brief, and the reason behind that is that the four-year forecast time period has changed. So in the past, I would come before you in November and then again in May, and that gave 6 months of time between the two forecasts, and it also gave us basically all of the spending information for the year, and property taxes are paid to us in 2 payments. So we knew a lot about what was happening with revenue. Since we are now required to report this in, the last time I brought it to you was September and October, and now February, short time period, not a lot of information has changed. So I'll move quickly. The forecast has not changed very much, but of course, happy to take any questions at the end. So there are 4 major fund groups. We're really just talking about the general fund. When people think about their tax dollars that are locally received from the state and local property taxes, this is really what they're thinking of. This is the one that we're required to report on twice a year to the state of Ohio, and it's by far the largest funding source. And so when we think about where the money comes from, a little bit less than half of it comes from local property taxes, and also a little bit less than half from the state. These numbers are almost the same as last fall when I presented this to you. Really, this is talking about the fact that it is a state and local partnership. I've previously also talked about the fact that we're a guaranteed district, which means state funding for us has decreased already due to the state's decisions not to increase costs over time. And so we have seen a $16 million annual reduction in what we've received through the core foundation formula, which means that we have a very predictable revenue stream as long as the state keeps the current funding plan in place. This chart is also very similar to the one that you previously saw, but I think it's worth just every time I get an opportunity to talk to people to reiterate this fact, which is that the state has historically and is continuing to shift the burden of educating, the cost of educating students from the state to local taxpayers. So this dark blue bar, the navy bar is showing what the state share was starting in 2024 all the way through 2029, and you can see a decrease every year during that time period and an assumed increase every year during that time period for local taxpayers. So the state share decreasing and the local share increasing. And then one of the areas that is particularly of concern to me and to a lot of my treasurer colleagues is disadvantaged people impact aid. At the federal level, you may hear about Title I funding, which is funding for students experiencing poverty. DPIA is the state's attempt to do something for students experiencing poverty, and the state has changed the formula over the years in a way that has dramatically hurt our school district, and I think it's worth noting, and that we've not seen a decrease in the number of students experiencing poverty, but our funding has decreased since 2023.
Dr. Morgan, what is that noise?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out as well. You don't realize.
I think it was all the air coming out of the room from me talking.
I was doing the same thing.
Okay, if you could just speak up a little bit.
Sure.
Thank you.
Give me the thumbs up or thumbs down. Is this okay?
Great.
All right. So also just to reiterate, the Fair School Funding Plan is not keeping up with costs. And so there's an independent analysis of the state school funding plan, which has said that during this year and next year, our district is underfunded by $157 million. So you think of the challenges that we're facing in the context of that opportunity from the state that they have not fulfilled. There's some good news on the revenue front. So 2 things that I want to highlight for you. The first is that we've previously brought to you the fact that our student population for special education transportation has increased over time, and it's caused cost increases. But I've noted that we would in fact be able to seek reimbursement from the state for part of that cost. So we don't get full reimbursement, but we get about 68% reimbursement. This year, we've done a better job of seeking that reimbursement and have gotten $7.4 million more that shows up in the forecast as more revenue. And then the second bullet point is that in the funding formula this year, there is a performance component for school districts that are high performing. And under this requirement, CMSD is a high performing school district. And that's because we earned at least 4 stars on the progress rating in any of the previous 2 years. So we're receiving $1.6 million more per year that we previously did not. And we will receive that as well next year, and then we'll have to see what the state does in the future for how the formula works. On the expenses side, we have the same challenges that all of my colleagues experience, which is that the compensation, especially health insurance, is very difficult. It's growing very quickly, and for us, it's 79% of our expenses is personnel, as it should be, but is a challenge. So we're seeing inflationary increases basically across all categories, no changes to the assumptions there. And then we have continued to attack this smaller area, which is the non-salaries, the non-personnel side of things, and we've reduced that in the last few years substantially. So the forecast is slightly better, and I've showed this to a few people, and the response was, well, that's great. We are seeing better numbers in out years, and we are very, very, very small changes, like well under 1%. We're not going in the opposite direction, but we continue to have annual deficits, which is that net revenues deficit line that we're projecting starting this year and carrying forward, which points back to the need to do the cost savings measures that we're already working on and that we are looking to accelerate next year. But the good news is here that we meet state requirements for fiscal oversight, or for not having fiscal oversight for the time being. And we know that we have additional cuts to make with Building Brighter Futures going into next year. And really, think about this, that in the fall, I'm going to be presenting this forecast to you, and we'll be looking at FY29 as the time period. We have to have a positive cash balance. So you're seeing still a negative number there. So there's still more work to be done, which we're prepared to bring to the board in the coming months as we complete our school and central office budgeting process. So again, very small changes in the cash balance over time. And then a few key takeaways. One that I really want to talk about for a second is number 4, because we're getting more information about this. So our peer districts are going through the same thing that we're going through. Akron and Toledo are both, they both qualified for state fiscal oversight. Toledo actually would be out of money a year from now, Akron a little further out, but they're going through really substantial cuts. Toledo is talking about potentially decreasing the school week to 4 days. City of Columbus has announced at least $50 million a year in budget cuts, which includes cuts to transportation. And the city of Cincinnati is going through a budget cut process themselves as well. So it's not great. This is what we're all going through, and it's the hard work. So wanted to highlight that, and happy to answer any questions I can.
Is there any discussion from board members? Dr. Sridhar?
Thank you, Mr. Stockdale. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have 2 questions. Well, one is an observation, and the other one is a question. Let me ask the question first. If you go back to our the 4-year forecast slide, so just to clarify, the 35 million savings target that you have in FY27, that is still just a target at this point. You have not yet constructed a budget that realizes that saving. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it is our intention to bring to you the budget. We're required by June. We will bring it either May or June.
Right. So that I just want to point out to everybody listening that that's when we say 35 million on that line. That is what you have to achieve in order for the rest of those numbers to line up.
That's correct, and if I can add on to that, so what I was talking about with FY29, when we talk about 35 million, that is a starting point.
Correct.
Really, we have to go further than that in order to not go back into state fiscal precaution in the fall.
Right, and I'm also noting the asterisk mark down there below, which talks about no further collectively bargained wage adjustments. So that means that gap is going to increase even further.
Quite possible, yep.
Okay, thank you. So I want to go to the slide where you're comparing with other districts, and this is, you know, if you go a couple of slides ahead where you have.
I think that's in the online version, and it's not in this
I
version.
see. Okay.
But
Oh, I see.
I can speak to it.
Yeah. So the cash balance. So when you talk about the cash balance that we have in Cleveland compared to the other districts, you know, and the Toledo number in particular is harsh.
Scary. Yeah.
Right. So can you speak a little bit about what that means from an operational perspective?
Sure.
What does the cash balance mean? You know, I've asked you questions before, and you patiently explained to me what that line above that line and below the line means. Can you explain to the board as well as to the public what that cash balance number actually means?
The cash balance is exactly like your home checking and savings account balance. So it's making sure that you can pay your bills, that in our circumstance, it's making sure that we can pay our employees and that we can pay our vendors. And the challenge for school districts, and I talked about this earlier, is that we receive property taxes 2 times a year. So if you think about 44% of our general fund coming from local property taxes, and we only get it 2 times a year, we have to keep a cash balance because our cash flows vary quite a bit. So when we think about minimum cash balance policies, you know, a lot of districts set 2 months as their minimum based on that. And so you can see that we're right there right now, and if we don't take further action, it will decrease over time. And so we do need to be aggressive in order to preserve that so that we can, you know, keep the operations going.
Mr. Billups?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. I just got one question. On slide 7, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand or see it clearly. On the graph, it kind of, in my thinking, indicate slide 7.
I can't see the numbers, I'm sorry.
My bad.
Is it the 4-year forecast chart?
Nah, it's the state shifting its funding.
That one. Okay,
Yep,
yeah,
that
thank you.
one. That one. I'm sorry. It kind of appears that the state funding will bottom out just from looking at that chart. Would that be wrong to look at it that way?
So the reason it's doing that, and this is an analysis that is done statewide, and so I'm using this because this is consistent with what the every district would look at for base costs. I'm going to try to explain this in a way that makes sense because it's state school funding, so it just can't make sense. But the state is not assuming in their funding formula that the cost to educate students increases from this fiscal year until 29. So really, all that's happening is that they're expecting us to pay more and more and more. So the real picture is worse than this because we know, of course, that the cost to educate kids is increasing because of all the things we have to do, but also because, employment costs increase. And so, yeah, the state amount is decreasing and it's flattening out. And then the other side of that is that our contribution is probably actually higher, what we needed.
That was what I was kind of worrying about. And I was also kind of thinking about, you just kind of answered it, but does it take into account the potential rise in cost? I assume that the cost to educate a student rises over time.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if it took that into account.
No. Again, the state made a decision in 26 that they would continue to fund us based on costs, and these are really costs from 3 or 4 years ago, a cost set. So we're going to be going on several years without an increase from the state for the same student.
Thank you. I just have a comment, relating to this slide around shifting responsibility to the district. Obviously, we don't charge our students to go to our school, so that means tax levies. And what you mentioned about some of the other districts with cutting school days, cutting transportation, it's really shifting costs onto families, right? So there's property taxes, but then there's also childcare costs if your kid's not in school and you're working, and then there's costs of fuel and getting your children to school. So this is really alarming to see and to hear about. And I know that we've got a pretty engaged community here in Cleveland in some ways, and sometimes it is by engaging with us about our decisions, but I'd love to see and think about how the community can advocate at the state level as well, because the problems that we are facing are really at the state level through these funding challenges, right? So I appreciate you shining a spotlight on that through this presentation.
Absolutely.
All right. Dr. Morgan?
All right. Well, the next presentation, actually, I'm going to do the goals and guardrails, so looking at chronic absenteeism as well as Chief Stockdale, if you can give me the clicker, as well as freshmen on track. So if our academics team can transition, and then we'll go into our Building Brighter Futures updates. I'll also be remiss, I know this is our first board meeting in February. Happy Black History Month to everyone. Very happy to be celebrating that all month, as well as we ended January with Board Appreciation Month, but we're extending that throughout this month because the snow did not allow us in our last meeting to do that. So looking forward to this month, not only celebrating Black History Month, but the continued celebration of our board members and their contributions. So where we are with our goals, and this is the midpoint of the year when really some of the data is coming in and we're starting to see how the year is shaping up. Today I'll be talking about chronic absenteeism and also our freshmen on track, just seeing where we are midway through the semester. We are starting to get some of our academic data back, and I'll be really excited to share with the board some of the progress that our academics team has been doing and some of the progress our scholars have been doing. That the academic data has been promising, and I think that's coming up in one of our meetings where we'll be talking about our ELA and math progress. But for today, chronic absenteeism isn't a direct goal that we are charged with. It is one of the CEO measures that we look at under our goal of looking at proficiency. So when we're looking at goal 1, which is a charge really around early literacy proficiency, we have chosen the grade levels of K3 to think about if that's the grade levels we're tracking for looking at early literacy, we want to make sure that we're getting them into schools. As a district, we have historically struggled with chronic absenteeism. So if students are not coming to school, how can they learn at high levels? So we felt that this was really important to look at. And then also for goal 2, when we're looking at the proficiency of Algebra 1, which is our math goal, and looking at 9th graders, we know 9th grade is a huge area. I think it was our area that had the highest chronic absenteeism rate last year. And so we are focusing in on these areas, and we want to share with you progress. So I always want to look meta in terms of where we are in the district. There are some interventions we've taken this year. One, moving attendance to be closely aligned with academics in schools, everything that is touching our students. So we've moved the supervision of where attendance is this year. And even though there are still areas we are struggling with, as you'll see when it comes to chronic absenteeism, we have slowed the rate down in terms of the decline and are pretty flat when looking at both the absenteeism district-wide of our system or attendance rate district-wide, as well as the chronic absenteeism. So it's pretty flat from where we were this year, and there's still mitigating factors, even though we are in year and it usually gets more challenging as the year increases. We are not taking our foot off the gas, and there's still mitigating factors that we're looking at to ensure that we finish the year strong. This was an area we lost points on our report card this year, and so even though we have focus areas we're looking at for our board goals and guardrails in the K3 and the 9th grade space, we are looking at where we are district-wide and hope to gain some ground here. So first, looking at the CEO measure of chronic absenteeism and K3. So currently, 48.8% of our K3 students have been absent 10% or more year to date. This is a great level that the chronic absenteeism rate has gone up. So when we talk about chronic absenteeism, chronic absenteeism going up, that is not an area we want to go up. This is something we want to go down. And so this is an area, right now it's showing that this particular grade band is going up. We're up about 4.5% from where we were last year at this point in the year. And just knowing, not 4.5, we are up about 2 percentage points up. But knowing that we increased about 4.5 in previous years from now through the end of the year, if we continue on that historic trend, we would be off track. So this is one that will be off track. I'll do a deeper dive in a moment when looking at the data and some of the other mitigating factors we're looking into. So a deeper dive into the data, when looking at the 23 and 24 school year and the 24-25 school year, so the previous 2 years, and looking at our kindergarten through third graders, we increased 8 percentage points in terms of chronic absenteeism. And when we're talking about an increase in chronic absenteeism, that's not good. We want that to go down. So in those 2 years, we increased about 8 percentage points from November to this point in the school year. This year, the team has worked really hard to put some strategies, and we actually slowed that down a little bit. So it was 8 points in the previous years. This year is only 6%, even for this grade band that we're looking at that is has higher chronic absenteeism. So that is a promising sign that some of the strategies and interventions that the team has been working on have slowed down the rate. Now, to meet our goal, no more than a little over 4,200 students out of approximately 9,300 students, that's all the students in the K-3 grade band, can be chronically absent at the end of the year. So that's what we're looking at to meet our goal. Right now, we have a little over 4,100 K-3 students who are firmly on track. That means they have an attendance rate of about 92% or above. I see our fan has gone down. I was told that that is the fan that is taking place, but it may be coming back intermittently. But also, we have these students that are on the bubble here. So we have about 2,200 students that are between 92% and 87%. And this is a focus area when you see some of the strategies that the team is looking at that we really want to focus in on. Of course, we want to focus on those students that are chronically absent, those tier 3 students that really struggle. But what the team is looking at here, these are students we could slow down the rate, ensure that they stay in. We could gain ground here and meet our goal. And so the team is really thinking strategically about this and dissecting this data. Now, looking at our 9th graders, this is a promising sign. As I mentioned last year, our 9th graders was the group that had the highest chronic absenteeism rate in our entire system. And this is a group, currently right now, we are on track. Currently, 63.4% of 9th graders have been absent for 10% of the year. Now, let's not get it twisted. 63.4% chronically absent is not good. So you're going to hear me. We talk about continuous improvement and the work we have to do. We have a lot of work to do. We have to get our 9th grade babies in school and learning. But we have, this rate has dropped, and you'll see some of the strategies that the team is doing. When looking at where chronic absenteeism has increased in previous years for 9th graders, it's went up about 2.5 percentage points. And if we continue on that trend from where we are now, we would be on track to meet our goal. A deeper dive in the data, similar to what we saw for the K through 3 grade band. When looking at the previous 2 years, we increased 7 percentage points from this point, from November to this point in the year, and that has went to 5%. So once again, flattening that rate, slowing down the rate. Similar to what you saw in K through 3, really looking at the data, we need a little over 2,100 out of about 3,100, almost 3,200, I would say, 9th graders that can be chronically absent at the end of the year. Currently, right now, 975 9th graders are firmly on track at 92%. So 975, that's not even half. So a lot of work that we have to do there. But the promising sign is we do have those 707 9th graders that are right on the cusp, 92 to the 87%, and that's a focus area we really want to focus in on. And it's going to be interesting when we're looking at 9th grade chronic absenteeism and the next goal that we're going to look at when it comes to freshmen on track, because they're really tied together when ensuring that students are not only in school, but also that they're passing their classes. So some of the strategies that that we've been working on all year, and we presented, I forgot when we presented this. Maybe it was October, maybe September. I think it was October because it was after Attendance Awareness Month that we were talking about some of the strategies we were doing. There is the removal of the no-show students. Every year there are students that sit on a roster. I was meeting with one of our partners today, and we were talking about some of our students that are sometimes overage or just sit on a roster. In our schools, those are students that carry. They carry with our students. And if they don't show up, they're not only impacting this data, but they're impacting test rate data, and they eventually impact graduation rate data. And so the team has done a great job over the past couple of years of strategically thinking about the removal of the no-show students. There was a process that we have to go through when doing that, but that's been very important strategy. The attendance campaign work, one of the things we talk about, I know I talk about my goals, and these are my goals, is how I get evaluated in terms of how what students don't able to be able to do, but all of our senior leaders, their goals roll up into these goals. And so we've worked, the external affairs team has come alongside our academics team and has shared in the goal of attendance awareness. And even when they're thinking about the campaign and marketing work, a lot of that is tied directly with their goals. We have an attendance task force that's really thinking specifically about these grade bands, the K through 3 grade band, as well as the 9th grade grade band, and thinking about strategies. There's been principal focus groups asking what are some of the challenges that schools are facing and also what is working. And then we'll talk a little bit about these attendance review teams at schools as we get more specific about some of the strategies that are taking place at each tier. Things that I shared that are working, the principal focus group, learning what schools need and some of the challenges. I was even encouraged in our meeting that we had, our regular meeting that we have with the mayor's team, and was asking what can the city do to come alongside and think about chronic absenteeism and appreciate always the all-in approach. And we want to ensure that the strategies that we're using in-house are moving towards this, but if we could think broader about some of the other partners that we have partners like Say Yes, where they can come alongside and actually not only just provide the support, but are sharing in our goal and also measuring the impact so that we're improving this all together. The district attendance task force that's meeting regularly and has gotten underway really since our last presentation. That was one of the strategies that got implemented. And then the attendance review teams, and then having a consistent schedule of communication and support for attendance liaisons. And that has been very helpful and an intentional strategy this year. Some things that are not working is the majority of absence that are collected are unexcused absences, and 76% of those are of the chronically absent students are having those unexcused absences, and with there not being a reason why, it does become a little harder to diagnose. We don't want to throw spaghetti at the wall when looking at this. We want to really be strategic about what are those levers we can do to move it. The two-way communication between home and school, the inconsistent implementation of some of the strategies, and we're still in the diagnostic stage of really figuring out what are those high leverage root causes as well as the high leverage strategy that move to impact. So those are things that we're still doing. I'll name a few other things. Of course, over the past few weeks, weather has been a challenge. And so I can imagine as we emerge, today we got a little bit of a break. It was 40-something degrees. I said, I saw grass, but as we emerge and we come back up, we're going to start looking at our data, and it's going to show up. Not only the days that were hard that we were in and out, but it's been a hard winter, and the families that have just chosen to stay home and really thinking about how that hits. And we're about to enter into testing season. So that's been a challenge, and really thinking about how we can come alongside of that. I also had the opportunity to meet with Governor DeWine last week, and with some of the other colleagues, my colleagues across the state who lead districts. And we were talking about even just some of the ways attendance has to be reported, some of the other things that are challenges that we have in very transient districts that have high mobility. So these are some of the things that we're looking at. Some of the next steps, the district level attendance task force that we have, and the team that is really studying this and really understanding what are those high impact, high leverage strategies. The attendance campaign and awareness, continuing to do those, leveraging some of the partnerships that we have around incentives. Those usually help the students that are in Tier 1, it keeps them in school. Sometimes you may motivate some of the students in the bubble to stay in school. Those don't always help the students who are seriously chronically absent. And so those are just some strategies that will continue to go on. The Everyday Labs campaign. Everyday Labs helps our schools identify who those students are to give regular communication out. As well as messaging that we can do with that. And I know the attendance liaisons have been working with that as well. And one of the things that was shared in the last presentation that still has not happened to date, but will happen, I know that the team shared with me in preparation for our review for this, is asking students. And specifically, I think before we were going to talk to ninth graders in general, but really focusing in on those bubble students, learning about them. What are some of the challenges they're facing? There may be things that are on our radar. There may be things that aren't on our radar. We also know that there are aspects of culture in school that can sometimes be challenges for students. So really just understanding that so that as we're building the strategies, we're connecting to that. But this is the group we want to focus in on, because if we slow the rate here, as well as maintain the students in that 92% or above, we have a chance to hit our goal. So I want to talk about the school-level attendance review teams. This was a strategy that came out, I think, from the principal focus group. If I'm looking, that this was something that by getting proximate to the work, of which our academics team loves to do, not only getting proximate by speaking with school leaders, but they're in schools all the time doing walkthroughs, talking with teachers, and seeing what's happening. But one of the things that came out from this was really thinking about focusing in on those students in the bubble for our K-3 specifically, and what are some of those strategies that we're looking at. So we already talked about the target group. We know those groups of students that we have to slow the rate down, but then also really thinking about some of the strategies where there's a check-in and check-out system approach with parents. Because when we're talking about our littles, it is not just a student level intervention like it may be at the high school level. This is also a parent intervention. What's happening at the home that parents are struggling with getting their young student to school. Also leveraging our parent ambassadors. We have parent ambassadors in every single one of our schools. I think the DPAC meeting is coming up. Yeah, it's next week, and that is a very engaged group. But how are we leveraging that group to not only learn from what's happening with parents, but also think about those strategies that we can turn key and use in our schools. And then also implementing that check-in and check-out process at the ninth grade level as well. So these are some of the strategies. And before I go into the freshmen on track, team, is there anything else you guys would add, amend? All right. Did you want to take the questions in between now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Sridhar?
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. This is some sobering data. I have one sort of tactical question and one or two more strategic level questions. The tactical question, and I don't mean this to come across the wrong way. So the two numbers that you talked about, both at the K-3 level and the ninth grade level, where you say the data from November were 2.2 percentage points better. Is that something that is something that your team predicted and is tracking, or is it just happening?
Yeah. No, a great question. So nothing that I would say predicted. What we are predicting is when we're looking at strategies and we're tying to it, we are hoping it slows the rate down. So
Okay.
that would be something you were predicting. Of course, if we were looking at a prediction, we would want that prediction to be a lot lower. For ninth grade, it is that we ended up there. In the K-3 space, even though it's lower, we're still at a higher space. But we are monitoring it to see, are the strategies working, and that helps with it. I thought what is behind your question, but I thought what you were also going to ask is, particularly in the K-3 space, if it's slowing, why is the rate higher? And there could be a couple of reasons for that. One, the cohort of the number of students changes from year to year. And so one of the reasons why I always like to look at the attendance percent in conjunction with the chronic absenteeism rate is because the attendance percent though isn't apples to apples, will give you that percentage relative to the student body that you have, and your percent may increase based on the enrollment that you have or the amount of students that fall into a different category. So it is a little bit more dynamic. So what we are seeing is that the slowing of the rate, but the N per se could be larger. And also what that is also showing from November to this point, it wasn't looking at how the year started.
Sure, thank you. So this actually goes into my next question, which is a little more broader and perhaps looking into next year. Do we have, and this is two parts. One, do we have data that we can talk about that that ties outcomes for students, of course at the summary level, that connects to attendance rates and the lack of chronic absenteeism, right? So that is, in terms of a communication package, yes, parents have all kinds of challenges in getting their kids to school. Yes, ninth graders and 10th graders may have challenges, but do we make the effort of communicating to parents, to families, that here's the outcome that you can expect for your child if they attended school more versus not, and so this is I mean, really looking at building the message for next school year, especially as we think about a completely reconfigured district. Is again, this number, and as you're pointing out, between November and January or February, that gap keeps widening. So it's really our best shot for reducing chronic absenteeism is to start the year much stronger and make the case with families and with students, saying that coming to school every day has a direct material impact on their outcomes. So, what kinds of things are you thinking about from a messaging communications perspective, connecting to real data of how students are doing?
Yeah, there is data that we've actually tracked before that we may have even shared before at the board level, that where we looked at, and I know I saw this, I don't know if it was when we were at PELP when we were looking at this, but we looked at chronic absence, the students who came regularly, and how they were achieving, and you did see it. There's Dr. D'Amico getting up. We did get a chance to see some of that, and I will say on the family messaging side, before I turn to Dr. D'Amico, we have messaged some of those things. Actually, at the parent, I was at our choice fair, which I'll talk about in a moment, for building brighter futures. And I know some of the literature that Tracy Hill had out was really just these parent guides where it reinforces that. I think things that we could do better with, and also things that our families don't understand. When you're talking about chronic absenteeism and even attendance percent, it is hard to translate. I remember even when I was a school leader, we always had to translate the percent of attendance to the number of days. Because there may be a family that says, in a given week, my kid comes 4 out of 5 days. They're fine. And now, at this point in the year, if they miss every day, at least one day every week, they're going to be off track. And so I think that's changing the mindset and really understanding what that impact would have. But Dr. D'Amico, do you want to share a little bit more? And I think I remember seeing that data somewhere.
We do have the information. So just to give you a quick sense of it, so students who are have a 95% attendance rate or higher tend to be 40% of those students are proficient, compared to students who have an 85 to a 90%. So they're in the chronically absent category, but not severely chronically absent yet. They have a proficiency rate of about 23%. So you're talking about almost on a magnitude of like a 20 percentage point difference between those groups of kids. We've also done, it was many years ago when we did the attendance campaign, and I don't know if anyone remembers the kind of citywide campaign we did. We did also do a number of like analytics around like the amount of like drops in your scores on OST for every day you miss, or how your rate of your probability of graduating changes. And those are things we could refresh as part of a broader kind of communication strategy to families.
Yeah, I'm glad you said the last thing, because I was just going to say that, right? I mean, speaking in percentages is fine for, perhaps this conversation. That's not, easily translatable, right? So,
yeah, it's the putting in terms of like the whether your kid's going to pass the third grade reading guarantee or graduate college seem to be meaningful things that we can anchor to.
Mr. Briggs?
Thank you. Dr. Morgan, and I have two questions. I may have missed this. First one, have you ever thought about engaging student leaders who are good in attendance to engage their colleagues who are not so good in attendance, and possibly some leadership groups? And the other question is, have you ever thought about having attendance competitions between or among the various schools?
Those are good ideas, so we could definitely do that. We have the 9th grade focus group we're doing, and I also know as part of our Student Advisory Council, one of the breakout sessions, which we're doing now, we're going to do them in smaller groups, which I always love when we get a chance to go into the schools and do them in smaller groups. But one of the questions is really thinking around attendance. I don't know if it was attendance and on track, but I know that's one of the focus areas that we're focusing with the Student Advisory Council as well. But we can do that as well with the 9th grade strategy group as well.
Ms. LeBron?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Thank you for this information and all of this data. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was outcomes, and Dr. Sridhar actually covered it. But I was thinking about, another idea tying it to like outcomes and metrics tied to attendance is the college career workforce and military readiness. As somebody who reads college applications for students that don't automatically get admitted, one of the things that I look for on a transcript is, what does the attendance look like? And I know that for CMSD, the district doesn't include attendance on the transcript, but perhaps, helping students understand the impact of what it means, for a college application, if that's something that, they're interested in, because it definitely ties to student success and retention and really even admission. I mean, that's something that we look at. So I wanted to mention that, but also, I think it's really a great idea focusing on the students on the cusp of becoming chronically absent. I'm really excited about the 9th grade focus groups and what data comes out of that. I think it's always really smart to go to the source, right? What do scholars say are their issues? Rather than, the data will tell us some things, and like you even mentioned in your presentation, sometimes it's just unexcused absences with no reasons. So you can't really get to the source of the problem. So I'm really excited about the 9th grade focus groups and really learning what comes from that. One of the questions I have is, what is the makeup of the attendance task force? I want to know who is included on these task force.
So good evening. The attendance task force for the district level is it's representative of a diverse group of departments. So we have everyone from special education, multilingual, our Project ACT or homeless and shelter groups. We have folks from our academics team. We have our external affairs division, communications. We also have family and community engagement. So we have a plethora of diverse group that touch attendance, parents, and all of that to be able to not only analyze data, progress monitor these particular strategies, and then also brainstorm on what other strategies we can continue to do in order to better our chronic absenteeism rate.
Are school counselors included on this task force?
No, but we do have representation from our college and career team.
Okay, and it sounds like the task force is made up of like high-level people. Are there people with high touch to the students on the task force?
That's a very good question. So we are in the process of defining all of that. So that's part of the reason that we did have the attendance review teams. Okay. The attendance review teams it's more or less the same concept, that they're the purpose is only to review and to implement some of these strategies, but it involves only our district administrators, that they can then touch those kids, because parents are going to be very connected to those that know. They're not going to be connected to myself, for example, being the Deputy Chief of Student Services. They will be connected to the assistant principal, the dean, the SAES person. So that's the very personal connection that we wanted to mimic what we do with the district task force with the attendance review teams.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Mr. Billups?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Dr. Morgan, my question is, and a lot of the questions that I had already kind of been answered, but probably the biggest question that I have is around absenteeism and I know we had a task force to try to help with strategies with that. And I know in the past, we've had situations where systems also helped. So with things like filing truancy, and I know there was a program with the court system where parents can come and get the supports that they may need to help with their kid getting in school. Can we speak to, are there any like supports that a parent might need? That, like, I know sometimes a parent might just need some supports to get their kid into school. Is there anything that we can speak to in that regard?
Yeah, when we think about the family support specialist and the work we do with Say Yes, that's really the concept that came around it. There's so many, I would say, opportunities when we think about how to wrap around a child. The Say Yes family support specialists have really been thinking about where they're the quarterback and thinking about those resources and helping our families. One of the things we do talk about in Say Yes is how can we be more strategic as well by looking at the data, because the question is always around impact. So many of our family support specialists and many of our community partners do lots of different things that touch our families and make an impact and change their lives. But if we're not monitoring the data or being really strategic, how can we ensure that the work that we're doing, and we have a person in each one of our schools supporting this work? And so I know in one of our last meetings we had, maybe in November, we started looking at the data. Say Yes had started collecting the information and some of the reasons why students are doing that, and really excited to continue that leverage that partnership. I know we have our new executive director that just started, but really thinking about how do we have that collaboration while we have these resources that are helping to really help us with this work. Because there could be many reasons, and also figuring out there could be many reasons, but what is the most high impact, high leverage strategy that can help move the needle the most, and put our resources towards that.
Thank you. I got one more question. Also, I think about, as a parent, from time to time, I do get the call that your child is not in school today. But I also think about the chronic absenteeism is not just about the day, right? It's about also, did you go to the class right after lunch every day?
Yeah.
And so can you kind of speak to the importance of also attending every class every day?
Yeah, this goes into one of the things I was saying we were talking with the governor about, and it's high school. So, and being a high school person, it's one of the challenges. There are good reasons why period by period attendance was created, and it's not only like that in our state, it's like that in many states. The challenge in very high, schools that have high mobility, of which we do, high transit rates, lots of different things that are taking place in the school. A kid can be in school, and if they miss that class after lunch and they happen to be in the guidance counselor's office, and if you don't have the systems in place, I think we lost our feed that we may want to check. There we go. If you don't have those systems that are in place to really capture the student, it can be a challenge. And so I think where it is in the way it is calculated now, a student can miss one period and have a half day of attendance. And so that alone won't change your high numbers of chronic absenteeism rate, but it does capture a lot of students sometimes that could be, that you could be missing. And so I think that's a challenge. And Ms. Harris, was there something you wanted to add there? Oh, okay. No, I was like, yeah, you can come up. Yeah. But no, I think that becomes a challenge in the high school space. K-8 is not the same. And that, I think, to the point of messaging for families, one of the things we talked about when we're reviewing these, a lot of our families don't realize that. Because in K-8, if you show up for the day at some point, now if they're there much later, they won't get counted, but your attendance is captured once and you're there for the day. And a lot of parents don't realize that. Maybe even 10th, 11th, and 12th graders don't realize they get marked absent for a period. They are missing that. And that goes into tardies. There are a lot of kids that are late. I talk about it all the time. You could be driving around the city for a midday meeting and you see a kid that's school age in high school with a backpack, and you're like, why are they not in school? They're walking up to the school now, and it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock. That all matters. And so those are all the things we have to look at. And it does have an impact when you look at all those half-day attendance for some of our schools, it does matter, and it could move the attendance rate significantly, even just by focusing in on that strategy.
Ms. Jones?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Thank you. In thinking about the different, I'll say, reasons, et cetera, that students might not be in attendance, I mean, there's a whole host of them, et cetera, but as you talk with your student groups, a couple of things that came to my mind, are there either activities or clubs or things that might draw them in to come in early to do that might help with that? But then the other thing I thought about, it could be something as simple as breakfast, or it could also be the fact that they're taking care of their other siblings, and therefore they can't leave until their other siblings are set. So I just say that to say there may be some ways that by knowing this information, there can be some things that could be done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, high level, when we think about the work we're doing around building brighter futures, the other things, the other aspects that get kids excited for coming to school, even your best student, they're not coming to school. I mean, they may love instruction, they may love reading, but they're not saying, like, I really love that ELA curriculum that I have. They're going because, they have, cheer, basketball. We were just talking about the Senate League game this weekend where you saw both our boys and girls basketball teams performing at such high levels, and then dynamic cheerleading squads right on the side. Those are the things that we have when our students can compete at high levels and do something really well. It draws them in and keeps them in school. And so we want to leverage that. And also think about the calendar, because we're in the period of time of looking at our calendar for this year. Dr. Florence's team has really thought intentionally about the calendar. And when we think about currently now, when we have parent-teacher conference days or open house days, we have a K-8 day, we have a high school day, and that usually those days are a wash because high school kids will have their siblings, they will stay home, and then they'll stay home on their day. And so, those are just things that we can, leverage and think about, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, Dr. Morgan, I wanted to add around, this has been brought up a little bit, but just doubling down on the idea of not just communication, but addressing structural issues by first identifying some of those structural issues. And you and I have talked about this, but I'd really love to see us make sure that we are accessing and requesting information from our partner that we've invested in, Say Yes, because the specialists are in touch with our students and their families about their biggest problems. So I hope to see more of that data coming back, addressing some, or at least understanding some of the root issues, so that, like you said, we can then access the highest value return on investment strategies. The other things I'm thinking about are, students they're not dumb, right? Like, they're making a value assessment sometimes of, is it worth it for me to go to school versus something else that's going on in my life? So us creating a more successful school environment, like we are looking to do with Building Brighter Futures, I think is one strategy for us, so that kids know, like, I'm going to get something out of being in this school building, right? And that's consistently demonstrated to them through the quality of education that we are providing. So I think that that's one important strategy that we are investing in now through the Building Brighter Futures plan. The other question I have is around immigrant students and students who might be afraid of getting to school with what we are seeing in some of our other communities around the country. I know that Minneapolis public schools have been virtual for, I believe they're still virtual for how long now, because families are afraid to go to school. So I'm wondering how, and whether we know whether that's impacting any of our students.
There was a time, particularly about a year ago, when there was a kind of an uptick of some of these things, and really a lot of us dealing with these issues for the very first time, that we, our multilingual department under Jose Gonzalez's leadership was really starting to look at what are some of those challenges. How can families communicate information to us? We do have protocols that were in place that we did recently. I wouldn't even say refresh, but we just brought back out to our school leaders, given some of the uptick in activity that has been taking place. So that our school leaders do have, and we do have protocols that are in place. But I was on a call a week ago with council superintendents from the Council of Great City Schools, and hearing what's happening across the country has been sobering, because we hear about Minnesota, but we not hearing about some of the things that are taking place in some of the other states, and was asking even for resources that other districts are doing and other cities are doing. Fortunately, we haven't been confronted with the issues at the scale that some of those other ones are, but we want to ensure that there's readiness in the event we ever have to.
But do we know, aside from whether we are being confronted by them right now, do we know if families are concerned about that and potentially not coming? I would assume it might be at a low level if it is, but are we accessing that information somehow?
We are. Through our multilingual department, we have a very active multilingual department through the direction of Ms. Barrios, who sits right next to me. And one of the things that we are noticing is that a lot of our multilingual families are asking for the remote options and being very proactive on that. The other piece of that is that the feedback that the multilingual department has gathered through their home language surveys and their interviews is that families feel very safe within a CMSD school because that's the environment that's been created for them, especially in our very highly populated schools. So we do have some type of a grasp on that. We are noticing a shift in that remote option with a lot of our multilingual families. So I know that the multilingual department's family engagement component and their compliance team and their assessment team are keeping a close eye on those families and assessing the needs that they have in order for them to have full access to their education.
Thank you. Ms. Peak?
Yes, I was going to ask something similar to what you just mentioned. I'm kind of concerned in the groups that the young people are having. Are you learning anything about, do they feel safe? And of course, that mental health piece. We know that it's a lot going on in our families now, and sometimes they may not be coming to school, but they may be going somewhere else. I know as a librarian, we had lots of children to come into the library when they were not in school. And it was the policy not to ask them to leave because we wanted to make sure that they were safe, but they were still afraid of something, and I didn't deal with it too much because of the privacy. But I wanted to know, are we checking in on the kids as they're not coming to school?
Yeah, well, there are definitely things that are taking place at the school level. So there are school level groups, but then also thinking about the humanware and the work that we did in our first Student Advisory Council meeting, there was a small group on it. As I mentioned before, we're doing a small group session where we're going into the schools, similar to what we did last year, where those sessions are either a circle group or things that we could do directly with students in smaller groups, where I do believe that was something that was on there. Because the Student Advisory Council is it's usually about a 3-hour day with travel. Sometimes the students miss the whole day. It was supposed to be on Friday. We didn't do that given the inclement weather that we recently had, but we are revising that, and Jason Tidmore, who leads the Student Advisory Council, that's one of the topics when I saw the agenda that we're looking at, not only to look at chronic absenteeism rates, but also to just check in with students and see some of the things that is on their mind and the ways that we can support them, and also just thinking about how they're doing and thinking about their transitional support. So I know those are some of the things that the Humanware Department was checking in on.
So are you learning anything from them and that information, and maybe listening to having that information, then making some adjustments to address the chronic absenteeism?
Yeah, those are coming up where we can learn from that.
Okay, so
you were asking what we learned before. What we learned before was specifically thinking around building brighter futures, and that did help us in informing some of our not only the decisions we were making around building brighter futures, but informing how we were not only taking into account transitions and the things that are important for school communities as they're coming together. And I know even this month, during the PD Day, school teams are coming together. All of those different things were things that not only that we heard from students, but that we heard from staff. They'll be really important for students to come together. But I think you're talking more specifically about chronic absenteeism and SEL, which is more of a focus for what we're doing with the student advisory coming up in the coming months.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. I just had a clarifying question to ask. Is multilingual synonymous with English language learners? It is. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
I have another question. To what extent are our students tardy due to our own transportation challenges? Like, if CMSD buses are late, is that a challenge that we are seeing that is contributing to the absenteeism rates?
It can. One of the things I will say is that we don't do yellow bus services in the high schools unless for our special education students. So we do provide that, and that would be a challenge there. It's RTA buses for our students in high school, and that's where the period-by-period attendance is. So.
And do we know to what extent RTA tardiness might be a part of the challenge? I'm just thinking about how we leverage resources,
yeah,
find solutions.
Yeah, we can track that for both of the questions, because I do know when there are times yellow buses are late in the elementary space, and that has an impact. It won't impact this data, because essentially when in the elementary space, when the students show up, even when they're late, they're going to get counted. But in the high school space, we can get that, and whether there are RTA buses, it is a little bit more. It is harder to track, given because students are doing their individual routes that they're doing to get there. We do know, though, if students miss a bus and the frequency of it, sometimes the next time that they'll do that, they're getting there late, or if they're coming from a far distance, that can have an impact. So.
But like you reference, if maybe they're helping get a younger sibling to a bus, and if that bus is late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next report.
All right, so the next one is really looking at freshmen on track. And the way we define on track is our students passing their classes. And I'm just as a point of clarification, to be on track, they have to be passing all, or can they have, is it one, do we track it by one F that they could have? 5 credits, okay, so that they're earning all by the end of the year. So that is the definition when we're looking at on track. And this was something that was really important. We're looking at, thank you for part of the academic team that works on chronic absenteeism. And I know now we're focusing to our college and career readiness team. So this is under our college and readiness goal when we're thinking about the percent of 4-year graduation cohort that is at least college ready and ACT, SAT readiness, honors diploma, AP, IB, 12+ college credits, et cetera. And you may ask yourself, how is this related to it? And the reason why this was really important for me when thinking about a CEO measure goal that we were looking at, if students are not coming to school, we first looked at chronic absenteeism. So first we need to make sure they're coming to school, but we also need to make sure they're passing their classes. And I know from even being a high school leader, if students are not on track to pass their class in their freshman year, they're going to be off track for the rest of their time. And what we know about many of our students is they're not proactive about getting into credit recovery. They're not proactive into getting into summer school until it's time to graduate. And they'll do as many admintums that they have to do. They'll do what they have to do because they want to they want to go to prom, they want to graduate. But we should be tracking this all along. And this is a big part of the work that we as adults we have within our locus of control. One of the things that was really important for me in this last contract negotiation that we did was ensuring that we have an electronic grade book. And this was one of the reasons why it was really important. And one of the reasons why you will hear us talk at every family meeting, and for our parents to sign up, parents, we need you to sign up to know what your kids are doing. Because if they're not passing their classes, and if they're just going every day and they're not passing their classes, they will be off track. We cannot get them across the finish line, and we can't get them to be achieving at these high levels. So our goal for this year is to, our baseline was at 69.7 last year, and we want to increase it to 74.2. So in terms of how we're doing right now, after the first semester, this cohort, we are down. From where we are. This is a decrease from where we were last year at the semester, looking at semester 1 last year, and even down from where we were semester 2, but down from where we were semester 1. Some of those root causes, and we're going to dive deeper into this data, is academic preparation, really thinking about those instructional practices and behaviors. But a big part of this is monitoring. And we're going to get into some of the things we're seeing and the work we're doing in this next semester to just ensure there's more intentional monitoring. And we have some best practices that we want to start lifting, because I know we don't do school spotlight anymore through the way we do our goals and guardrails. But as we are seeing things that are taking place, we do want to lift those practices that are working throughout the system. So let's just do a deeper dive into the data. There are some subject areas that are up when looking at the failure rate from last year. So looking at world languages, social studies, ELA, Algebra 1. ELA is slightly down from where it was last year at the semester. Or slightly, the failure rate has slightly decreased, so that's one we will want to go down. But thinking about Algebra 1, social studies, and world language, those are all up. ELA, I would say, is flat. The subjects where students struggled the most in terms of the failure rates is in science and fine arts. And I can imagine even thinking about fine arts, that is, there are probably attendance. These are compliance issues a lot of times and not necessarily mastery issues. And so really, how can we support our scholars and support our educators with supporting our students? We shouldn't use, from a standpoint, students should be coming into school, being prepared, completing their work so they can be on track with passing their classes. And from an educator standpoint, we shouldn't use grades as a way of punishing kids, either for their behavior or maybe not coming to school. And so there's both and in terms of the work we have to do to up the rigor and get our students prepared, but also ensure that we are not using grades as an indictment for our scholars. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the strategies. One of the things we have right now with our electronic gradebook, we do 3, 6, 9 reviews. 9 is at the end of the marking period. You have the third week point and the 6th week point. And one of the things I push our team in looking at is, what are we finding out at the 3, 6, and 9 period? These should not be surprises. They shouldn't be surprises to us now that we have electronic gradebooks and we actually have dipsticks of where families are. Of where our students are, and they shouldn't be a surprise to the parent, which is why we want to ensure parents have their electronic gradebook. I'll share some promising data that we have on our update of our electronic gradebook, but we want to make sure we're focusing in on that and thinking about the leveraging of the supports. I'm also doing the monthly monitoring of students who are on and off track. Through the academic progress team. There are some schools, and one of the best practices at the high school level is to have both a department or a content grade level team, but also, or a content team, but also a grade level team. A lot of our high schools are only organized by departments, which departments, they help with the content. But if I'm meeting with the English team, all my English peers, and we're talking about the 9th graders that are failing, there's usually 1 or 2 9th grade English teachers. The best way to talk about behavior and grades and attendance is in a grade level team, because all those teachers, whether they are the 9th grade English teacher, the 9th grade social studies teacher, the 9th grade math teacher, they all meet regularly and they could talk about intervening for students. And so there's been a focus for thinking about those teams and how we leverage that. And then also just the correlating the data of the chronic absenteeism with the data of the on-track rates. And then also supporting our educators with what they're finding and some of the challenges that they have, and that we're not putting that out there. The other thing that's really important, and I get sometimes calls from parents, even with the review of the 3, 6, and 9, there are some parents that actually have access to their grade books, and they'll say, I went in and there was 1 grade. And so that also doesn't help because if there's only 1 grade or so that is entered, and that's not a realistic picture of how the kid is doing, it will be a surprise, because if that 1 grade is that the kid is passing, but we haven't entered in the grades and we wait until the end and they're failing, how do we intervene? And so, I know I fielded a couple of calls from parents where they say, I don't see grades in and I can't know where my student is at. And so some work we have to do both on the students end and on the educator end. Some things that we've done, if you're looking just at an arc of where we've been this year, there's been some training in August at the top of this year on the student information system for pulling grade reports. At one point, there was only through our data team access to a grade level report, and we said school leaders need to have access to pulling this on a regular basis and ensuring that they're doing that. What we've done this month with principals is making sure there's a turnkey presentation on the monitoring of student achievement, and that they're doing this at regular levels at the high school, in the high school space. But since the beginning of the year, I know network leaders have been meeting with principals and pulling those high failure rates, and principals have been meeting with teachers to think about those strategies for improvement. We just need to make sure that we are intentionally seeing the data change as we move along. As I share, things that are working are the principal trainings and principals actually seeing how they can not only pull the data, but also identify gaps. And then the 369 monitoring reports that have also helped. The parent grade book, we ended last school year around 25%. We are now sitting at 63.5, so that's huge progress and huge work. I know at almost every event I'm at, there was someone, Tracy, I'm seeing Anthony Brown back there doing some speech on signing up for the grade book. So we're over 50%, but that's still not all. So as I'm looking out here and we're talking to our parents, sign up for the parent grade book. This is just as much of work for our educators and for us as it is for you, and you can help us as you're seeing some challenges, and that's what that access is for. And the grade book not only gives you access to how your student is doing, it also gives you access to things like attendance as well as their behavior as well. Starting to work are those network leader meetings to really just track the progress and be more intentional. This isn't a surprise. So we're sitting now, we're in quarter three, and quarter three will be ending soon. So we see what's happening all along, and how are we leveraging those network meetings and the coaching conversations that network leaders have with principals on this data point. And then the APT agendas, which those are the academic progress team meeting agendas, to really think about those action plans. Things that are not working is we have some broad strategies we've done here. There hasn't been a consistent strategy in terms of monitoring that we've been doing that we want to ensure is working, and there's been inconsistency with that. And then, as we mentioned before, the inconsistent practices in grading across our system. We have a grading policy, but not necessarily some standardized things that have worked. And there have been strategies and systems like ours that do work, some that our schools are implementing in terms of how you track students. There are things that you could do around like no-zero policies and different things. All of those are strategies that work, but we haven't adopted these things district-wide or have an agreement on district-wide of how these things can support our efforts. Next steps. Principals are already reflecting on these on track to graduate this goal within their AAPs. I know the AAP meetings are underway, and we're doing a lot of support and work in conjunction with our teachers union on this year's AAPs. And we're talking about those developing not only of the plans, but also of the strategies. School teams are reflecting on their great progress in those 50-minute meetings, but then also there's a charge of just thinking of when looking at this particular data point, ninth grade on track, or just even looking at on track in general, who's the composition of teachers who are monitoring those grades and making sure that they're together. Schools using the new F report to monitor the 3, 6, and 9, and how we can support those students, and also looking at chronic absenteeism. And then the academic progress team will maintain their focus on ninth grade on track and off track of students. We also want to lift Cleveland School of the Arts. This is another example where a leader, once again, has organized this particular metric by grade level team and is thinking about those tiers. So that top layer looking at the data reviews, the interventions in town halls is needed. That middle layer those grade level teams and really looking at the students of concern and interventions. And then that bottom layer, just what's happening on a regular basis where the principal is reviewing those grade level reports, lifting those concerns to the teachers, and also seeing what plans of support can help. And I don't have the data on top of my head. How much did these schools improve? I know it was a significant improvement when we lifted these. And maybe the team can find that as we get any questions from board members. But I did want to share that I remember hearing how much there was an improvement for these two schools, or some of the schools that we've looked at, and we want to leverage those practices. But that is all.
Ms. LeBron?
Thank you. Separately, the chronic absenteeism presentation focusing on, K through 3 and 9th grade made sense. But I'm curious, and maybe this is slightly a suggestion, but I wonder if there's any benefit in focusing on 8th grade as well, so that we can create a regular school attendance behavior and habit, because that will definitely, I think it will impact the on-start, on-track 9th grade readiness. Just something that I thought I'd put out there as an idea. The other thing I wanted to say is I'm really excited about the new early warning tools that are coming out of the 3, 6, and 9-week performance reports. I'm wondering, the early warning tools, who gets an early warning? Is it the educators? Is it the student? Is it the family?
Good evening. So Dr. Morgan lifted earlier that the APT teams, academic progress teams, and in some cases the admin teams get a chance to look at these dashboards to get those earliest warnings, so then they can then speak to the students to set up those interventions, or the teachers to set up that structure in that classroom to support those students. So for example, last week we had the counselors reach out to 9th grade students specifically who were found to be in that early warning space.
Okay, but there's a gap then in how quickly the students find out that they're actually a warning, right? And so I'm wondering if there's any way, or if the system can alert students to say, hey, you've been dinged, or you've been, you're on track for, you're not on track, and this is what we need you to do. Like something that kind of puts the onus on the student to get them to meet with their counselor, or to get them to meet with their teacher to say, okay, I need to get back on track. Whatever, this is what was happening. Just curious if that's something that you've all thought of, or if the system has the capability of alerting the students so that they also are responsible for their education. I'm just worried about that gap in timing. If there's an early alert warning, the whole benefit of having the early alert is that it gets taken care of right away. If it takes an APT team to go into a dashboard to create a plan and to then outreach to students, I feel like it loses the benefit of the early alert.
Ms. Welch-Howell?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Thank you, Dr. Morgan, for that presentation. My question is actually on behalf of my colleague, Dr. Sridhar. I wasn't expecting that to be so funny. So his question is, what kind of intervention are we planning with educators in terms of professional development, and have we seen a correlation between teacher PD and student performance?
I'm going to pass it over to the team, but I will say that it's a both and in terms of the work we do. And some of it is just the systems. So actually putting a system in place now where we have an electronic gradebook, that's one of the things that help. Having things in place like a 369, those are the things that help. But we don't have standard, we don't have a standardization in terms of grading, in terms of what's the expectation of how many grades, what are the weights. And some of those things, you want teachers to be able to have their creativity and autonomy in some of the spaces. And when things are so very different for students, especially in the communities that we are serving, it is a challenge. And sometimes it is some of those tactical things. And so those are some of the structural things we are looking at. I'll let the academics team talk about some of the interventions you guys have been doing on the teacher level. And also, I'm looking at Dr. D'Amico. I don't know if you had that response, and if you did or not.
teacher PD correlated with
Not the teacher PD. I didn't know up on the other one that we were looking at in terms of the data for the schools, but if you don't have that, that was fine.
I do have that.
Okay, yep.
So to answer your question, so we saw it, the team saw it in two different ways. So one was the preventative piece. So what happens before the student receives the grade, and so you saw the example of that from Rhodes. So that's where the grade level team works together, and the team together says what interventions need to be put in place. We spent some time this first semester, working on MTSS, or multi-system tiers of supports. So teachers didn't know how to do scaffolds in their classroom to help kids access when they are struggling. But one of the things that I think it was lifted earlier that I don't think we've done a lot of in the past that we are looking to do this semester moving forward is for those students who are in that, I think you called it bubble or space of passing their courses for this semester. So, so those within 20%, how can we have teachers work with those students to recover their grade during the same class versus, like Dr. Morgan mentioned earlier, trying to recruit those students in credit recovery years or semesters down the line. So let's put you with the same teacher that you have first semester, what assignments you may need to make up or what tests you need to retake of to get over that threshold. So that should bring our failure rates down a little bit.
To your question about those two particular schools, it's not a case necessarily that they had increases from last year. They're just two schools that consistently have very high on-track rates. So Rhodes College Career typically is over 90% on track. CSA typically above 95% on track very consistently. So that's how those schools were selected.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Morgan, I do want to remind you that it is okay to come back with the answer at the next meeting as well, although I appreciate everyone being at the ready. Pastor Jones.
Thank you, Chair Ellicott, and to Dr. Morgan, thank you for your presentation. I heard the presentation concerning the electronic grade book, and I think my question is, in this day and age of having to utilize technology, is there a reason why parents are not becoming, what's the percentage of involvement, and then is there some problem with parents having access?
Yeah, so for signing up for the electronic grade book, that is a challenge. There were challenges, of which our team has worked to reduce some of those barriers. One of the barriers were it was a lot to sign up. I think in the initial stages, parents needed to have their student ID number. They need to go in with their own unique login. So even if they came to a fair and there was someone saying sign up for electronic grade book, it wasn't just as simple as enter your name and your email address and you get signed up. It was a process. But there were some barriers that we actually were able to break down, and one of the reasons why we were able to have a lift, I know Chief Farmer Cole's team, in conjunction with Tracy Hill's team, worked with our IT team to help reduce some of those barriers and got families signed up, but we're continuing to think about that, of how we can get more families signed up. I think the other area is just some of the challenges we have just with engagement in general. When do we have those touch points of families? So I know we've worked at the school level, because particularly in our elementary schools, most families are going to set foot in the school at some point in the elementary school. And so how can we leverage right at the school having that information? And I will say, to our school's credit, there are not many schools I walk into, particularly at the elementary level. When I walk in the main office, I don't see anything about signing up for the electronic grade book, but how can we continue to leverage those efforts?
Mr. Billups.
Thank you, Chair Ellicott, and I would also say thank you for the presentation, Dr. Morgan. I would say, and I appreciate what you said about the electronic grade book, the importance. As a parent, we use the electronic grade book very often in my household. Pastor Jones kind of asked my question to a point, but I want to kind of drill down a little bit more specifically with our parents that's multilingual. Is the electronic grade book easily accessible for those families as well?
Yeah, there is I believe there's a translation feature, and I don't see, there, Tracy.
So the electronic grade book is available in multiple languages. Parents can select the language that they prefer when they sign up for the electronic grade book. And to Dr. Morgan's point, we were able to work with our IT team to use a plugin to create accounts for every parent that had a email address. Now that means that we have about 2/3 of our families that have email addresses, so they all have an account. What we're doing now is trying to ascertain those, find out those parents who don't have email addresses, get them to update their information at their schools, Empower Schools, so that we can, again, use the simpler process to create those accounts. Thank you.
I have a question, Dr. Morgan. So we are deep in the interim goal right now, but that interim goal is under a higher goal, which is college readiness. So my question is, when we focus on just F grades, why is that? Like, is that the only off-track measure? Because in my brain, I'm like, well, wouldn't a D grade also potentially be a signal that a student would be off track?
That's a great question. For this particular one, we're focusing on that because if we're looking at graduation rates, so there's many things that feed into things that we measure for students to actually graduate. And to ensure that they can graduate, they need to be passing on classes. So we do want to ensure that they're passing all classes. I wouldn't say it's necessarily just a focus. We're looking at those students who are getting C's and D's as well. Some of our other measures that we're looking at get more specifically at the rigor of some of these other elements. But we know that if students are not, if students are not passing their class, and a D would count in terms of passing their classes, they won't get credit for that and they won't be able to graduate. So it is the measure that we know will eventually go into account for graduation rate, but not necessarily the only thing we're focusing in on.
Okay. All right. Oh, sorry, Ms. Jones, I didn't see you.
Thank you. I'm curious, because I remember from a previous board meeting, we were talking about, was it second and fourth graders or whoever, attendance was great and then attendance wasn't and those kind of things. And so I guess it had me thinking, okay, at what point do either students lose interest, start to have problems, whatever it is, because it's almost like, can we catch them before that happens? But the other thing I also thought about, I do think that oftentimes, no matter what the class is, there are times when teachers can make things fun, and sometimes the fun keeps people interested. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that everything isn't fun, but there are some things that students will come to do because that's the activity or that's the whatever. And to some extent, whatever we can do to help that take place, I think is going to be important. But the other thing I also wonder about is, what is the support in the home? Nothing personal, but there was the expectation when I went to school that I was going to school. It wasn't like I was going to be cutting school or doing whatever, because heaven forbid someone catch you and tell your parent. But I'm not sure that that's exactly the same anymore. So I'm not sure, like, what are maybe some other mechanisms, and not expecting an answer, but things that we as a system can do or look to do to try to help that or support that amongst our students.
Yeah, I can bring that back. I think, when I think about your question, I think a lot about some things that we can continue to learn, and it goes back to a question that you asked. And so I could come back as we think about, the presentation that we'll end the year with and seeing where we are. I will say, to your broader point, there's so many different access points, and what I love about our goals and guardrails is they're focused in, they're focused areas, but these aren't the only areas, and there are other areas, if we were looking at them, that there would be other challenges, and so it is an entry point and a starting point, but there are areas where we can look in, and the goal you're talking about in particular, which we're about to be presenting on that again, is thinking particularly for the Algebra 1 goal that we have, but we're starting to look at our current 4th and 5th graders and where they will be when they eventually will get in 9th grade. And so the more we can see some of those correlations, and I heard a little bit of that from you, Ms. LeBron, if we're focusing in on these 9th graders, what's happening at the 8th grade level, it may inform how we look at some of our CEO measures for the upcoming year.
Yeah.
Mr. Phillips.
I'm sorry. I thank you, Chair Ellicott. I have one more. I just can't get my mind around to really process slide number 4. And the reason being that the percentages just stick out to me so much because it's a tight range. It's like 5% range from the world languages being at 25% failure rate, and then fine arts being like 20%. And so in my mind, something in my mind is telling me, are these the same group of kids that's failing across the board because the range is so tight? I don't necessarily need an answer, but I'm just trying to kind of figure out, is that indicative of a same group of kids that's maybe having a chronic absent issue or some other issue that's leading to that?
Yeah, but I see exactly what you're talking about. If you were looking up straight from top to bottom, you're roughly between 20 and 25%, and it's there. And so I see what you're saying. Like it's just the same group of kids that are consistently doing it. And one of the things you will see, and it is listed as a strategy here, the team has started to look at who are the students who are failing, and it's due to chronic absenteeism, which there is a big range. This is a group that we have the highest % chronic absenteeism, and there may be students that are failing every single class because they haven't shown up much. But then the team also was looking, and I did appreciate this, because it can become so easy to say, well, they're not showing up. So if they don't show up, I'm going to give them an F. We do have a group of kids, and they're looking at this report now where they aren't necessarily in that high chronic absenteeism group, and they are still failing. And so I think looking at both the strategy, because if they're not showing up, and that's one of the reasons why they're failing, that is much more of a chronic absenteeism strategy. Get them in, we can get them to pass. But then what's happening for the students that are coming in, and this new report also helps differentiate that.
And if it is the same group or largely same, I'd be interested in what schools they're in, right? Yeah. And are there interventions that need to be happening at a school level?
Yeah, no, that gets to even where I appreciate it, you clarifying just a high percentage range, because a lot of districts that are tracking freshmen on track, and there have been systems at this for about 20 years, urban systems with some of the same challenges, and you're in the 90%. And so when we could see some of our schools that are neighborhood high schools that are doing this, and they have high, they're getting kids to pass their classes, there's something to learn from them. But we can get that breakdown, and we'll have that for our final presentation.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on this report? Dr. Morgan, I did want to follow up on my question at the last meeting around the supports or accommodations for prayer during the school day.
Yes. So what we have and what Ms. Frew put together, and that was thinking specifically, that question came up around the calendar and some of the feedback that we got. So there are best practices that are being lifted across the board in some of our schools of where there are accommodations that are being met. One of the things our team is looking at is looking at currently what our policy says and what are some things that we can bring before our board and ensure that there is a policy that lists those accommodations. But there's already a policy that's listed. But there are some best practices that Ms. Frew has lifted in terms of things that schools are doing, where they're providing the space for students. Of course, we have the policy that the board has approved where there is a time where families can actually pull students out if needing to do that, but the space for both students and staff in the schools. And so those are best practices that we want to lift for policy.
Thank you. Yes, my question was within the context of the calendar changes. And also I know Ramadan starts next month, so that might be more of a need as well. All right. Anything else, Dr. Morgan?
We had our BBF
Okay.
really quickly. Yeah. So one more presentation. This is what happens when there is we don't have a board meeting, but did want to give the update. The board charged us with Building Brighter Futures, and what are some of the progress we're seeing. And so I want to share some of these updates really quickly, and thank you, team academics.
Dr. Morgan, sorry, where is this presentation to be found?
We'll make sure it gets in the, we'll get it in the agenda. I don't know if it's updated now and there, but we'll get that. So just an update in terms of our Building Brighter Futures progress monitoring. This is one of the things that was going to be shared in our January one, because every business meeting, which this one's not a business meeting, but we share an update on where we are with Building Brighter Futures. You guys know the timeline that we're in. Now we are heavy into implementation. So I always say with any of these planning processes, the implementation and planning part is the hardest part, and that's where we are in right now. We know the high leverage goals that we have around Building Brighter Futures is to ensure, particularly for the 100% college and career in each of our high schools, that takes planning and intentionality that we're doing, and then also the 100% of at least one enrichment course in each of our K-8. So those are the three big goals that we're tracking towards when we're thinking not only about the planning of the pathways and the courses we're doing, but now as we're entering into staffing, it's a big part of the work that we're doing. So I have an update for you, particularly on enrollment in terms of where we're doing in terms of our choice applications. Those have been open now for over a month. And then also staffing, because that's a big part of the work that we're doing through Building Brighter Futures, not only school-based staffing, but also central office. So the choice portal opened on January 5th. And opened with a bang. In the first 3 weeks, there was over 3,000 unique student applications received. I'm going to share some of the areas that are up. We are, when we opened up, we were up in several areas, and those continue to be up from where we were last year. Now, comparing last year to this year is different. We opened the choice portal in January versus in 2024 would have been, we opened it in November of 2024, was a different time. But in most of our categories, we are up from where we were in the first few weeks. Families have until February 27th to make a choice. We really want to ensure that we leverage this choice window time, and the applications continue to roll in. So some things that we've seen from where we are at as of today, or as of yesterday, 4,489 unique students have submitted a CMSD application. And this includes 3,606 unique current CMSD students, but that's 883 who are new to CMSD. And that is a huge, that's up from where we were in terms of new families that are choosing CMSD. And that's exciting, because even when I was at the Choice Fair this weekend, I saw a few families that were once students in CMSD. Some were not students in CMSD before, but they're interested in coming back or coming to CMSD, and we see that even in our applications. 45% of rising CMSD ninth graders have submitted a high school choice. This was also an area that was higher up this year than what it had been in previous years. 40% of preschool families have submitted their kindergarten choice for next school year. 32% of impacted BBF families have made a choice for next year. This is a category we continue to want to monitor, because we do know families have their welcoming seat, but one of the things we've shared during this time, we need families to confirm their welcoming seat. That's going to be really important. We have those choice navigators that are supporting at particularly our Building Brighter Futures schools making calls. We're tracking that data per school to make sure families have made a choice. There's some schools like, and I think about Alfred Benish, which is in our central neighborhood, where 100% of those 8th graders have made a choice, so that's exciting. It is only 13 8th graders at Benish, but 100% of them have made a choice. Well, you know, and which enrollment is one of the areas we had to work on, which is why we had to do Building Brighter Futures. But we are tracking that, and our choice navigators are tracking that information. And the goal of navigators are to make at least 3 outreach attempts and efforts to families by February 27th. So we're only a few weeks away from February 27th.
Dr. Morgan, just for the board, this is now under 15.03 in board docs and also available to the public.
Thank you. So in terms of our enrollment and marketing plan, this is work that we've been doing to get the word out. You know, there's been social postings that our external affairs team has been doing to get the word out. There have been ads, things that we've been working on not only through social media, but then also radio, different things we've been putting out there, working with our city partners to ensure that there's information that is going out, whether on buses and different flyers that are going out. I believe that there may have even been postcards that may have been sent out. So this has all helped, as well as just IVRs and communications that have been going out with families. So all this has been supporting and helping our efforts, and we think are attributing to the spike we've seen in applications. We've talked about the support that we're doing and the work that we have underway. And not only those choice navigators that are at every school, but we've had the school choice fairs that have been very helpful. We had one school choice fair at the end of January, another one that was in February. We've had some focus specifically for our high school students, those 8th graders that are choosing a high school. We have the new School Finder tool, which is connected to the application. But if you go to the Building Brighter Futures website or choosecmsd.org, I think that's the website, the School Finder tool is there, so you can see all of our schools there. You can actually see what are some of the offerings that they have there, and know that families have a choice and can make that choice. And so the other thing I would say is that everything is due on February 27th, and of course, the earlier you get your application, the better. But I know I've gotten questions from families is if our applications weighted any different based on when you submit it, and they're not. And so February 27th, everyone has that opportunity. At that point, we'll start reviewing it. I know I got my letter of recommendation in. My scholar kept asking, please submit your reference for me, Dr. Morgan, and I got it in. I talked to her mother to make sure that we got that in. And so really exciting. So if you are someone who is sponsoring or recommending a kid for a school, make sure you get that letter of recommendation in. That's going to be really important. So just other things to just share in terms of the timeline that we have here. We talked about this. This was something that we shared with the Building Brighter Futures timeline that we shared. In December was when we named principals. So immediately following the board vote around Building Brighter Futures, we were able to name principals. In January, we were able to name and do the assistant principal process, and starting that process. Central office budgeting actually kicked off at the end of January. We're in the process of that now, and more work to come in our central office budgeting. We'll be doing town halls with central office, because all the work, and when I think about back to Chief Stockdale's presentation, there's a charge of a finance target that we have through Building Brighter Futures. That's not inclusive of the work we're doing at central office. And so there's work that we have to do at central office to support Building Brighter Futures as well. And if we don't do the financial work at the central office level, we won't hit our overall target, or we won't be we will be in fiscal watch in the future. So we're doing some work at central office. We already talked about when the student enrollment window closes on February 27th. That also helps us kick off the school-based staffing aside from administrators. So we've been able to make some decisions around principals, assistant principals, deans, campus coordinators. All of that work has gone underway. Once the enrollment window closes, we'll have a better picture for some of our other staffing processes as well, and want to end that process by April. As we talk about just some of the key levers of support, there's just been a lot of proactive planning, ongoing conversations, and also working groups, not only with our administration, but also with executive leadership from both CTU and some of our other collective bargaining groups. We also have the instructional readiness and licensure work, because even with the positions we may find, we want to make sure that there's alignment. There are the current positions that we have, but then there's the promise that we talk about through Building Brighter Futures, and we want to make sure that we have the staff that's needed to do this work moving forward. There's work around that we've been doing with our principals. Our principals have been shouldering so much of the work all year, because there's been information they've known about their own situations for a good amount of time, while at the same time leading to finish out the year, leading to get academic excellence in a place. And as I shared, academic achievement is up. We'll be sharing some of that academic data in future board meetings, but they've been working really hard. But how are we supporting them through that time? And I know there's some work that we're doing with principals in the upcoming school leader institutes. So just some areas that we're continuing to really work on. There's a lot of intentionality and planning around pathways and programs. I mentioned the meeting I had with the governor, and one of the things that Director Steve Dakin showed us, he showed us participation in CTE programs across the state. And when it was the map of the state of Ohio, when we looked at Northeast Ohio, it was a desert, and showing, and what I mean by desert, just they had different color codes based on where CTE participation is. And in Northeast Ohio, it's really low. And that's in alignment with the work we've been seeing. We see what our college and career workforce and military readiness measure is at the state. And we also saw through our Building Brighter Futures numbers, even though we offer many different programs, really making sure we have those state-approved pathways. And so I know our academics team has been working hard to ensure that there are 100% college and career pathways in each of our schools, and seeing what that means in terms of the programs, the continuity of some programs, and also the addition of other programs. And so that work is underway, and it takes a lot of planning, intentionality, and work. And so huge shout out to Dr. Florence and her team, and I know we're working with other partners to help us with that. Work we're doing around facilities. So building reuse planning, all that comes before this board, but we've been working really closely with the city of Cleveland, and I know that there are listening sessions that they are doing right now to hear from the community. All of this is also leading us to a very strong start of the 2026 school year. So there's planning we're doing from everything, not only on facilities, but transportation, from our academic planning, staffing, all of these things is to make sure we have a strong start. And we already each year do what we call like a school readiness opening committee. And this year, a lot of the work we're doing through Building Brighter Futures is in conjunction with that. I will also say that a big part of our work is ensuring that the work we have with our partners is meeting the work that we're doing through Building Brighter Futures. And so we have several partners, all of which add to so much of our work. So I've named a few up here because these are ones I personally have been in conversations with, but Argonaut, who supports our work over at Davis in Aerospace and Maritime, which will continue, that's a pathway that will continue at the new Davis High School, and Cleveland School of Science and Medicine Foundation Board, which supports a lot of the work that's happening at Cleveland School of Science and Medicine. We intend to want to work with that foundation board in the new John Hay structure. TIES that supports a lot of our STEM work, specifically in MC squared STEM, but also in some of our other schools. And so I know I've had a meeting with some of the board members as well as the leader of TIES to say, how do we continue this work moving forward? And I want to be clear, as we think about our partnerships, I want to ensure we leverage these partners and continue the work. The programs are staying, so it's important that we continue the work. And a lot of our partnership agreements are really old, or they haven't been updated. We were looking at one of our partnership agreements for a school that's not up here and hasn't been updated since the early 2000s. And so we have a lot of work to do with our partnership agreement, and our work is to continue this work and move forward. We have schools to open up. We have kids that are signing up for these schools that are excited to keep the work going. I'm just excited to keep the work going and continue the partnerships, and I'm ready, willing, and able to continue our work with our partners, and we want to continue that work. Some of these conversations have started. I know our academics team has been meeting with a lot of our partners, and so it's really important. We want the work to continue.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan. Regarding partners, I know that we invite these partners to be in our schools and to support our work in educating students. I think something that gets missed a lot of the time is the investment that we make in bringing those partners in. How much money do we give Argonaut to operate inside of Davis Aerospace and Maritime High School?
Yeah, I believe that's $300,000.
$100,000 a year?
$300,000.
$300,000 a year, okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Billups?
Thank you, Chair Ellicott. Dr. Morgan, I just have kind of one question, and it's around the choice navigators, and again, kind of speaking to the multilingual families. I'm assuming that the support is there for the multilingual families to, in their language to help support them through the school choice process.
Yeah, I'll follow back up. I don't think I see anyone from our team that has that, or do we have those for some schools that are assigned? Here's Dr. Florence.
Our multilingual team does most of the support for those families. So the school choice navigators are assigned, but there's families who need specific support. They reach out to the multilingual team to make contact with them.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Florence. And then I also just kind of, I guess my thought process is, how much can the choice navigator help the family? So is that role more of a, hey, you need to do this, you know, we need to get this done, or can they really help the family understand what they need to do step by step in that process?
Yeah, so there's several trainings we've done with our choice navigators, and it's really all of the above. So some of it is just contact to say, hey, make sure it's happening. Oh, I see something that's right there. Sorry about that, I didn't see you there. But one of the things that there's been training to say, how do we communicate with families? Let them know that the portal is open, but also that they understand the application process. And the application is pretty simple. Going in, how you navigate it, make a choice. There is clear language if you are a Building Brighter Future school that your welcoming school must be a choice. So it's one of the things that we do, but we can walk families through that process. And choice navigators, as well as our enrollment team, is all trained on that. We've done work around school leaders, so they are ensuring how that process is. And for our 8th graders choosing high schools, I don't know if it's for all high schools or selective enrollment. That's where you get those. You have to have references, and as I shared before, I'm serving as a reference for someone, but then that process, it gets emailed to that person, and they can submit their application. So the navigators can really help all through that entire process and support that work. Is there anything else you would add, Sonia? Or? No?
Good evening. So I will add, you asked about the step-by-step process. So our navigators are trained to walk our families through and help them step by step, the 4 easy steps of choosing their welcoming school or exploring other options.
Thank you. I have one more. I don't mean to hog this space. I'm sorry. I'm also wondering, for students who, I know obviously we can't have choice navigators in schools outside of the district, but for students or families who maybe are entering the district in 8th grade, 9th grade, whatever, is there someone that they can reach out to that can help them navigate through the process of entering CMSD?
Yeah, a lot of our schools, particularly when thinking about the 8th grade selection, are whether they are counselors that may be there or other staff members, they help students through that process. And so many of our students, they are already submitting that application. They work with their families to do that, and that is it's represented in the high numbers of 8th graders that have already made a choice. And so we have those supports underway at our schools. And while we are tracking it school by school, there are some schools that are doing great, and there are other schools that are not. And when we think about the challenges, one of the pieces of data I'm looking at now is some of the families that have not responded or made a choice. Wouldn't be a surprise of who those schools are. Those are our schools' high mobility rate. Probably if we were looking at some of the other areas in terms of chronic absenteeism, some of the academic data, they fit the bill on all those different things. And so we are differentiating our strategy, because if we do a one-size-fits-all or just expect that if we do a fair and think that's going to reach everyone, there's sometimes that more intensive support that's needed, and that's what we're looking at. We look at this data at least once a week on not only the cabinet level, but we look at it in some of the different committee levels, and now really thinking about some of those differentiated supports.
Dr. Morgan, for the students that are automatically going to be assigned to a school, is there a confirmation process or anything? How do we know then that those kids will show up at the beginning of the school year if they're automatically assigned?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one of the reasons why we want families to make a choice now. if you are a scholar that is in a Building Brighter Futures school, it is so important to confirm your choice. So you have to go in and make do your application and confirm your seat, confirm your welcoming seat. You can also choose another school, which we are seeing some families choose other schools, and we know that there are going to be some schools that are more competitive this year because we do have families that are choosing. But if they go in and choose that, that helps us know that they are coming. Otherwise, we will assign them. That's not the favorite thing we want to do because we know that we can assign them to a school, but what that could do is if they don't show up in the fall, each year we have fall adjustment, and then we have lots of movement because the families didn't show up. We overstaff, we overallocate, and at some point those adjustments need to be made.
And when you say application, I know for the criteria schools there are additional things, but what does that look like just in general for non-criteria schools?
Yeah, it's literally just ranking the choice. So you just go in and just say, 1, 2, and 3. I know I see it visually in my mind because it's 5 choices.
That's okay. Yeah. I'm just curious, how cumbersome, because when I hear application, I'm in the college access business, so I'm like, what do these families have to do? So they know it's not, are we sharing sort of that the process is not
And we could do that even more. I think there's a video that we have out there that is walking families through it, but yeah, they go in and rank 5 choices. And if for the high schools, let's say you are a high school scholar that is choosing both a selective enrollment and one that is not, it'll prompt the essay prompt that you have to do. But for the majority of our families, all we need you to do is go in, log in with your information, select your choices. If it's a Building Brighter Futures one, make sure your welcoming school is number 1, and it's just literally that simple.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Dr. Morgan, is there any old business from board members? We do have 2 items of old business that appear on our agenda, carried over from our last board meeting. These are the resolutions adopting the 26-2027 school calendar and the 2027-2028 school calendar. And at our January 13th board work session, we held a public hearing on those proposed calendars. Since under state law, the board cannot adopt the calendar until at least 30 days after that public hearing, the calendar resolution is held under old business on this evening's meeting agenda, and the board will be asked to vote on the calendar at our February 24th board business meeting. Is there any new business? I do have quick new business. As many of you know, I am our board's representative on the Council of the Great City Schools board, and the Council of the Great City Schools not only is the creator of the student outcomes focused governance framework that we've put into place, but they do a lot of work lobbying at the federal level, sharing information with districts about what's going on in the education space at the federal level. So I just wanted to provide a quick update from the last meeting that I got on education funding. So many already know, but Congress did approve education funding about a week ago. They did reject many of the significant cuts that the administration had proposed to education funds. They kept most of the funding level, which is still important to know about because it sounds good, but like Mr. Stockdale mentioned, costs keep going up every year, so keeping it level is actually a cut. So that's notable for us. A very small increase in IDEA funding, which, again, very small. I think it was like 20 million, but good to at least see the indication that cuts are not coming to IDEA, which is our special education students. So just those are my high-level updates that I wanted to share. All right, the next board meeting will be a board business meeting on Tuesday, February 24th at 6:30 p.m. at Garrett Morgan High School. The chair will now entertain a motion that the board enter into executive session for considering the appointment and employment of public employees and officials, preparing for negotiations with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and conferring with attorneys concerning disputes involving the Board of Education that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Pastor Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBron?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch-Howe?
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 votes.
Thank you. The board will now move into executive session. Following executive session, the board will return to this room to briefly conduct some further business.
When I say food is, you say medicine. Food is? Food is? Woo! Give it up! Yay!
So what we have going on here today is a Meet the Farmer event. So we have this year partnered with 4 Cleveland growers that grow the vegetables that are on the salad bars that are in some of our schools. And the students can meet the farmer. Today we have Farmer Sarah and Farmer Jamel, and they get to meet the farmer that grows their food. They can ask them questions. We have trading cards, and the students get to try the produce items that the farmers grow, and it just encourages them to try something new, to eat fresh vegetables, and they can meet the farmer, and then they get to vote on if they like the produce item or not, and they get fun stickers, and we have if they write on the board of what they liked about the product.
This is one of the youngest demographics that we can have an influence on, and when you're talking about school lunches, this is food that they're going to be eating daily for a majority of the year, right? And so to be able to introduce local foods on a daily basis to students within the Cleveland area is just evolutionary.
We're talking about the benefits of fresh foods and also the difference between local fresh foods and those you might get, say, at a grocery store that might have been shipped from all over the country or world to get to your plate, often picked months and months earlier and don't have the same level of nutrition or flavor. So giving them that experience of eating something that was grown locally and why that's so important and why it's so important to grow your own food.
It was kind of sour. It was sour. And that was my first time ever trying that, but it had a pretty color.
One of our students, they did something special for someone in the community. And so we get all these people here to celebrate and to recognize what Allison did for someone in her community.
That morning while boarding the school bus, you noticed a small child wandering alone on the street, wearing only a t-shirt. Recognizing the danger the child was in, you immediately alerted the bus driver and took action to help. I want to give you a First District Commander's coin. It's got a 1 on the front for the First District and the seal of the Cleveland Division of Police on the back.
And I saw the girl walk out, and the bus driver was about to hit her.
And so what did you say to the bus driver?
I was like, stop. And then he told me, who is that? Is that your niece? I was like, no, that's not my niece. And then I went off the bus to go grab her.
It shows a great deal of awareness and maturity for her age. Most kids, like you say, they're on the bus, they're talking, they're on their phone, you know, and the fact that she noticed, she paid attention, you know, to what was going on at that particular time is just, you know, amazing.
I think it's very important because, you know, we're a community. We work together, we help each other, and that's how we get things done, and she's already doing that. Children can teach us a lot, and I think she did. Be aware, look around, help people when you see them in need.
I don't really care about the gifts because it was just the point to save somebody, anybody that need help.
The Cleveland Metropolitan School District School Choice Portal is now open for families to select the school that best fits their scholars' needs. The portal will remain open until February 27th, 2026. To begin, go to choosecmsd.org and click the School Choice Portal. Log in using your credentials. If you don't have an account, you will need to create one using your email address and phone number. You can also change the language on the site. On the welcoming page, your scholar's name should appear. Now, if it does not, click Get Started and add their information. You will need the scholar's 9-digit school ID number, which can be found on the report card, along with their full name as it appears on the report card. You will also need their date of birth and address. When you are done, hit Save and Continue. On the next page, families impacted by the Building Brighter Futures initiative will first see a page informing them of the seat reserved at the designated welcoming school. The welcoming school name will appear grayed out. You will then choose one of two options. I want my student to attend the designated welcoming school, or I want to apply to other schools. If you accept the welcoming school, the next question will ask about siblings. If there are siblings, add their information to ensure they can attend the same school, if you choose. Next is school selection. Click the box for your welcoming school to confirm it is your first and only choice. You will then confirm that choice. If you don't want to accept the welcoming school, click I want to apply to other schools. Your child will have priority seating at other schools if space is available. On the school selection page, you can view a map and search by school name or distance to find a school best suited for your child. You may select up to 5 schools and rank them in order of preference. This process is the same for 8th grade families choosing a high school for next year. After ranking your choices, confirm them. You will also need to submit digital signatures for both the caregiver and scholar. You'll review your choices and then submit your application. Please note, once you submit your application, you cannot make any changes online. If you need to make changes or have questions about the process, contact the Office of School Choice and Enrollment at 216-838-3675. If you are unsure about your choice at this time, you can save your application until you are ready to submit. School assignments will be announced the week of March 30th. Scholars at co-located high schools do not need to make a choice unless they want to explore other options for the 2026-27 school year. Now is the time to choose the best path for your scholar's future. Visit choosecmsd.org today and make your selection before February 27th. Your choice, your school, your future. Together, we're building brighter futures. Looking for the right school for your child? CMSD School Finder makes it easy. Here's how to explore your options. With the CMSD School Finder, you search by interest or location. There is an interactive map displaying all the schools in the district. You can view each school's profile and even compare schools. Want to narrow it down? Use the filters to search by grade level, programs, career pathways, and sports offered at each school. And here's the best part. Type in your home address and instantly you'll see the schools closest to you. Plus, you can see the distance a school is to your home to determine if transportation will be available to your scholar. It's simple, fast, and designed to help families make confident choices. So go ahead, explore, compare, and find the school that feels like home. Your child's future starts here. Hi, I'm Darielle Snipes with CMSD Communications. Today, I am so excited. I am hanging out with 2 of the Senate League girls flag football teams, John Hay and Rhodes. This sport is gaining popularity. Right now, CMSD has 7 teams. I'm so excited to learn more about flag football. Let's go. Joining me now is head coach of the John Hay ladies flag football team, Coach Vanetta Kreider. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I know this is an exciting sport. It's a growing sport. It just got sanctioned by the Ohio High School Athletic Association. That's exciting news. So now your girls can go for state championships. But you know, some of us were brand new to flag football. Tell me, what is the difference between flag football and just basic football?
The difference for flag football and basic football for our girls is that we actually get to compete this year. Outside of only using flags and not be able to contact each other, and we have to wear mouthpieces.
Okay, but just talk about the growing popularity of this girl sport and how exciting it is, especially here in CMSD and the Senate League.
Yes, right now it means that girls flag football is now recognized by OSHA. So now we get more opportunities to get school funding. So luckily we're a Division I school, so we had about 40 girls that come and try out. So this year we were expecting even more.
I mean, what do you think about that more girls want to play football?
I'm excited. I'm excited to teach them and for them to want to be competitive and lead and get outside their comfort zone.
The fact that it's, when people think about football, they think about it as a male-dominated sport. The fact that flag football, especially girls flag football, is taking off, it gives young ladies an opportunity to play what once was known as a male-dominated sport. Can you just talk about that opportunity for them?
Yes, it now gives the girls a platform to compete and lead, and we're breaking stereotypes and proving that football isn't just for boys. Anybody can play as long as you got the passion and the skill for it.
And joining me now are two players from the girls flag football team at Rhodes. Welcome. Tell me your names and what grade you're in.
I'm Aaliyah. I go to Rhodes Environmental Studies and I'm in 10th grade.
My name is Naya. I go to RCCA and I'm in 10th grade.
Wonderful. So just tell me, because I don't know, I'm learning, what is the difference between flag football and football?
Well, flag football and regular football, we already know it's not as much contact, but there's a lot you can do. Like the quarterback can't run.
The ball is smaller, less people on the field, so it gives. And flag it's quick. It's not like football. Football you have more time. Flag is quick, and you have less time.
Okay, and then you also have the flags. Yeah. How hard or easy is it to get another opponent's flag?
It depends on how fast the person is moving.
Yeah, definitely.
And what moves they're pulling out. But usually, if you're up, if you're catching up to the person, it's very easy. They're not hard to pull or nothing, so.
So tell me, why did you guys want to join the team?
Well, I wanted to join the team because ever since I was very young, I always played regular football with my brothers. And when I got older, it realized it was something I always wanted to do. In 2023, I played flag football with boys, but then I got scouted for a girls team, and we went all the way to nationals in Las Vegas and won a championship ring there. And then when I came here, there was no flag football team, so I asked if I could play tackle. But my mom would have let me, and then I found out later on we had a flag football team, and I was like, oh, this is my sport, so I'm definitely going to play.
I also feel like a sport that was really made for boys that girls never really got the opportunity to play. When I saw it at Rhodes, I feel like a sport that was always classified as a boys sport, girls being able to play, I feel like that was really cool, so I really wanted to take that opportunity to play. And I also, Coach O'Neill, she really inspired me to play. She was the assistant basketball coach, and it really gave me something to do, and now it's something I really would do the rest of my years in high school and see where it takes me.
Right, so this is the second season for the team. Just talk about how fun it is and just the team camaraderie that you ladies have.
It was very fun. In the first year, it was some rough patches, but we always got through it. Our coach, she's a very great coach because she is more informational about flag football than basketball. So when she is out here, she put her heart on the field just like we do.
Yeah, Coach O'Neill, she really great. She keeps us all lifted up. Something could go wrong, and she was always bringing the joy. It was our first year was really fun. We went real far, and just seeing where it took us, it made me excited for the next season to come. What we gonna bring to the table, and flag, I didn't expect it to be I thought it was just gonna be something to do. But when we actually started playing, I'm like, it's fun. It's really fun.
Now another difference is that flag football is played in the spring and not in the fall like regular football. Well, can you just talk about the fact that now it is a sanctioned sport, and so now you guys can go for a state championship? Just talk about you guys could be the state champs.
That's very exciting to me because, like I said, I always love football in general. So for me to have this opportunity to probably ever get scholarships to play in college is just something I want to achieve.
I think that's really good. It opens up more opportunities for the girls and gives girls something to do, because we always, as a girl, we always doubt it, or we don't always get as much opportunity, so it just opens the door for girls sports.
Now it's still, even though you guys don't have pads and a helmet, it still can be tough. I mean, it's still it's still a contact sport, would you not say?
You're definitely gonna fall. You're definitely gonna
get bumps.
But it's fun.
Yes, it's very exciting.
All right, well, thank you, ladies.
What you see before you is a culmination of 2.5 years of work. But moreover, there was 86 years of blood, sweat, and tears put forth by men and women who comprise the Tuskegee experiment. Let history show that in the course of human endeavor, that never have so many owed so much to so few.
My first reaction was it looked a lot better than I did it in class. It took a lot, and it's just, I'm proud to see that it's up there, and I'm glad everyone else can see it too. I think it's good that the Tuskegee Airmen get their word out and their faces out because they helped this world, and I'm glad that I was able to help them represent it. I've seen everyone do their painting in class. I've seen like their entire process through it, and now looking at it inside the airport, it's like, wow, they did that. That's amazing.
My name is Lori Lane, and this is my father, Earl Roscoe Lane. He was with the 332nd of the Tuskegee Airmen. I think they did a fantastic job in doing it. I know when I was speaking to a group of them, they said they did a lot of research on it, but they were still open to listening and to learning more so that we have more young people that are able to display their talent, learn, and it's one, as a teacher, I know it's one of the greatest ways for students to learn, and for this will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
I'm very happy today because I am sharing the CEO seat with a very amazing young scholar. She attends A.B. Hart and she's in 7th grade over there. This is Victorious, she goes by Tori Blackman, and she's CEO for the day. So CEO Blackman, yes, let's give her a hand.
I have been going to meetings and hanging out with some of the high schoolers and thinking about what high school I want to go to and just having fun with them.
To be a leader, you have to step in. It takes boldness. It takes not being afraid. And so far, Tori has been stepping up to the plate and showing that. Having a scholar with me has been amazing. And I mean, she was at the table earlier today with some of Cleveland's top leaders, and just being right at the table just means a lot to have that seat at the table. And so, and to be a young scholar, young lady of color, that just means a lot when we think about representation.
So today we started on our robots. Well, we started on our robots like 2 days ago, but today we added like our finishing touches, and we made them waterproof with pool noodles. We attached motors to them with wax in it, so it's waterproofed. And those motors spin at a very high speed, so it can propel itself through the water and able to do its tasks. It's so cool because usually robots are like on the surface, right? This time it's underwater, which makes it harder to see, but more funner because like you don't know what's gonna happen.
The machine itself, you can program it first from your computer. Once you access, this is via Bluetooth. Basically you can control it from there and automate it wherever program you want to, set it at a specific time. Experiencing all of this, I've actually had a lot of fun being able to come up here and just learn about a machine. And I've personally been part of a robotics team, so being able to experience a machine automating other stuff like agriculture is a really good experience. I had a lot of fun.
So I just got to Cleveland. I just wanted to come out and see y'all. We working out every day. We got a purpose. We got something we trying to accomplish and achieve. But I'm trying to bring Cleveland, of course, a Super Bowl. What inspires me to keep going, I would say, knowing I got a lot of people watching me, knowing that I'm a positive influence to the youth. That's why I say what keeps me going. So like even coming here, seeing y'all.
You go to the website, you type in the access code, and you're in. Your kids' pictures are there, and you could easily, I have kids at 2 different schools, you can easily switch from school to school and keep up on top of it.
Everything's right there. Like everybody always has their phone with them, so you can easily access it to your phone.
It's a relief for me knowing that my child has the best chance that they can, knowing every day they wake up, they can go to school and, take advantage of the day.
The winner of the first annual Rise Pitch competition is, drum roll please, Riverside!
Rise was birthed out of an opportunity that we thought was very, very important for us to be able to give students the opportunity to have their voices centered. So we asked them a question. The
question is, if you could solve a problem in your community with unlimited resources, how would you do it?
I'm 13 years old in the 7th grade at Elmira Elementary, and our group is excited to be here today to share our opportunity for action. I feel like that our gaming lab will help a lot of students because of these new technology industries that are coming from these foreign countries, which can excel our students and improvise them and get them set for life.
As a basketball player myself, sports helped me with a lot of teamwork, leadership, and even helped me with my mental health. So for me, I'm just asking, can we get more opportunities for sports all around the other school year?
We also wanted to make sure our ideas weren't just meaningful, but doable. We're excited to introduce a few real things we think that can make Riverside better right away.
Our goal is to think big for our classmates, our teachers, and our whole school.
Congratulations, and I hope that you have an amazing evening. Muchísimas gracias.
Today we have the ceremony award of the Seal of Biliteracy. We have students who took the STAMP test this year, and they got the Seal of Biliteracy from different languages.
I speak multiple languages, well, 2 actually, Spanish and English. I'm excited that I earned this because I know it will bring a lot of opportunities for me in the future, so I'm very proud.
The Seal of Biliteracy is one of the seals that students could earn upon graduation, and that it gives them a certification for being not only bilingual, that they can speak 2 languages, but they can also read and write both languages, and it's grown tremendously. It's a very, very important skill set that they will be transferring into the real world as they become adults, and they go not only to college, but also to the workforce, the military, and it also hits a lot of our goals for college and career readiness.
My name is Enaida Torres, and I am the Welcome Center Ambassador and the Executive Secretary. It's an important resource for our families in the community because there are some resources that families can't get from the school. Some of the common questions and concerns could be anything from payroll, it can be from benefits. We also have folks that come in that are just recently retirees. So we get an array of services that come in.
Our families specifically consider them our front-facing services in much of our enrollment, be it student transfer, transcripts related, or to talk through issues or concerns that our families feel may have not been addressed properly at the school, or those type of things. We have Project ACT, which is also here for our homeless population and our students and our families who are in transition. Within enrollment, there's our pre-K, there's our K through 8, there's our high school enrollment services as well, and special education focus as well.
The first thing is greeting our customers and our families that come in. I think the communication piece with our families is the biggest aspect when they come into the Welcome Center, making them feel welcomed and making them feel comfortable as they come into the Welcome Center.
We have our Welcome Center ambassador who is bilingual and especially those with our Spanish speaking, which is our highest population of second languages that we encounter here in the Welcome Center. All of our enrollment services, so school choice and enrollment. Educators can also be serviced here depending on what their needs are, if it's benefits or payroll related. Our bus office is here to address concerns, help our parents connect with resources in our families, and advocate in that way and be a connection to the school and particular departments for our families. And ensure the goal is always getting them to the right first point of contact.
So typically a family will come to the Welcome Center for multiple reasons, but if they're coming for the Bud's office, they're coming because there was a situation at the school where there may have been a concern and they feel as though the concern was not resolved, or they were not happy with the results of the concern. And so they will visit the Bud's office, and we will serve as that impartial place, a safe place where they can provide their concerns to us. We have a new platform called Let's Talk, and it's basically on our website. You can find it on any school website. on our homepage. They fill out a form. Great thing about Let's Talk is if they have a concern, and say for instance, it may be about transportation, but they want us. The beauty of that is that even though they want us, it will go directly to the appropriate person that should handle the situation.
We are here. We're here to get you connected to what you may need. We 8:30 to 4:30 a.m. first customer scene. We wrap up around 4:30, but we are here. We have our staff can help you maneuver through by way of CMSD, that we're getting you a resolve, that we're getting you to the right first place, and that at the end of all that you can give us a thumbs up that we've served you well.
Hi, I'm Darielle Snipes, and I'm here at Orchard STEAM School, and today we'll be taking a look at the ribbon dancing team as they prepare to perform at a school-wide event. And we are here with Felicia Kelly, who is the 5Cs coordinator and the ribbon dancers coach, and behind us we have the ribbon dancers. So just tell me, how did you get this program started here at Orchard STEM?
Well, I did a praise dance for my mom for Mother's Day, and I used a ribbon, and I brought the ribbon in to demonstrate part of what we call demonstration of learning, and I brought it into the ribbon dance to the school, and the ribbon dancers that are now ribbon dancers loved it then and asked me, can we do the same thing? And I said, of course. And so I brought some ribbons, and we started practicing, and the team was created.
But you have told me that it has exploded. So many kids want to be a part of it now. So what is the age range of your ribbon dancers?
So we have first grade all the way up to 6th grade.
Nice. And
yes.
So while dancing is beautiful, but you are here to instill life lessons into these kings and queens. Can you tell me about it?
Yes, absolutely. And they will tell you my first rule of thumb is positive energy. I have it all over the media center here, and they know that we are about uplifting each other, about encouraging each other, about helping each other. So those are kind of the life lessons that I'm trying to instill, so that they don't just incorporate it here in the first grade, second grade, middle school, high school. These are lessons that I try to teach them for life. How to be kind to each other, how to treat each other, how to be sensitive to different situations that might come up.
So this is a STEAM school.
Yes.
So, and even though you're doing dance, which is arts, which is part of STEAM, you're also incorporating some other things. Can you talk about some of the things that you're trying to teach them as well when it comes to STEAM and dancing?
Okay, so the t-shirts that they're wearing today, they actually help make. We have Cricut machines, we have silhouette machines, and heat transfer paper to actually make the t-shirts, so that the t-shirts that they're wearing, they made them. And also 3D machines, we have laser cutters, we have, actually, if you don't mind me stepping off camera a little bit, we have the capability of making mugs, and they help to design their own character on my mug, and it says, I love my ribbon dancers, and each ribbon dancer picked out their design, and we made this mug for me.
Wonderful. I'm joined now with Mila and Paige. What grade are you in, Paige?
3rd.
And what grade are you in?
6th.
And tell me, why did you guys want to join the ribbon dancers?
So I can learn new things.
What about you?
Because I always wanted to dance in a group, so I always found passion for Miss Kelly's moves, and that's why I joined ribbon dance.
So besides dancing, what else have you learned? I know she talks about, life lessons. So tell me what life lessons you have learned.
I've learned to work with a team, not by yourself, and sometimes you just have to work together so you can make things happen.
Right, you're right. And what about you? What lesson have you learned?
I learned how to collaborate with my team and have teamwork, and when somebody's doing something, I have to encourage them.
Right, and some of the collaboration you guys have done is you had some art students paint this for you guys for your performance. Just talk about how you like performing in front of others and showing your other students what you've learned and show the beautiful dances that you've learned.
I enjoyed a lot because it's got me like not to be scared when people are watching, so I'm not shy anymore like I used to. And now I talk loud, I'm just loud, all vibes, and when we perform, it makes me feel great because I show myself.
Good morning, good morning. Morning, everyone. Good morning, no beeping, hold that up.
When the kids walk through the door, there's a personal relationship here. So immediately they have a connection with an adult as soon as they've entered the building.
Typical day at James Ford Rhodes is being active with the kids, trying to be proactive with the kids before it becomes reactive.
Sometimes we have to stop and counsel or assist a student that might be going through something when they came in this morning.
I greet the students, make sure the hall is clear, interact, ask them how their day was going, walk through, interact with the parents, the community, the mailman, the neighbors across the street. They familiar with me, then I'm outside, I'm greeting with them.
I try to walk around, try to help the kids. I'm not trying to police them as a security officer. Can't do that. You try to help them in every way possible, and that's what I do. I'm a resource for them.
Going through the detectives, in the long run, I hear them say, boy, if it wasn't for y'all doing that, this, that, and that. So they really do like that detective, but just knowing that you in the halls.
And the students see that, and they see how I, if they beep or they see how I go through their bags, I don't play, so they feel safe. They be like, oh, there go Miss Campbell, Miss Campbell. When they fear or something, they come straight, Miss Campbell, so-and-so, and I'll be like, okay. So that makes me feel that, they see that I'm serious about my job,
I have noticed if we're referencing the phone collection, a lot of the students are interacting more with one another instead of just being stuck on their phones. They've started to build relationships with one another and do different things that last year and the year before that we weren't actually noticing anymore.
Especially with how we do the yonder cases, bringing in, securing book bags, making sure that no items or weapons are brought into school. I think it makes students and scholars feel much more comfortable, much more safe.
When the kids come through, they understand there are necessary things that have to happen, but when the officers treat them in that way, like human beings, and make them feel special, they're not thinking so much about those things. They're thinking about the relationship they're building. It's the most important thing for everyone in a building, is that relationship you have with kids, and if it's positive, usually you're going to get positive results. Not all the time, but more often than not.
I would do it all over again for anybody. Hi, I'm Trisha Page, and I'm a first grade teacher at Andrew J. Rickoff. I had a couple students that were having lunch in the classroom with me that day. I was sitting at my table, like here in the back of the room, and her back was toward me this way.
So when I was eating my taco, I tried to dip my other one in the meat and cheese, but when it went to my throat, I choked on it.
She was choking, and she was making the choking. Her hands were on her throat, and there was no sound whatsoever. I got up, ran to her, told the other teacher to go run and get the nurse. She was sitting in her seat, so
when she told me to get up, my tears, they did this.
I went underneath of her armpits here. I picked her up, I stood her up, and I started doing the Heimlich on her. And she was silent for a minute, and it was really scary. I don't know who was more scared, if she was more scared or if I was more scared. But eventually she started crying and making sound.
She deserves a reward. Thank you for saving my life.
You're welcome. And I would do it all over again.
The Wake Up Cafe was created to give the students real-world experiences promoting communication, social, and life skills, and also to help the students gain independence and confidence.
We're also helping our students build independence and prepare them for future vocational opportunities. We have students that leave us and go on to high school, and when they get into a lot of our high school programs, they also have opportunities similar to this, and this prepares them to step into that role with some experience and some skills.
The students empower themselves by gaining pride and confidence through their roles. They are speaking up, they're supporting each other, they're problem solving, and it's empowering to see them step into their leadership roles and show what they're capable of.
I feel like coming to the Wake Up Cafe, we're able to see the capabilities of autistic individuals, and it helps to support inclusiveness.
It's a really great way to break down misconceptions and celebrate what's possible.
This year's competition is water theme based. How the competition goes is there's a reef. And of course, if you see on the theme, they're like the purple, it looks like a reef. And then we have the coral. The coral is basically like this, it like a white pipe. And then the algae is a ball. And basically, to score points, your robot have to put algae onto the reef.
Each aligns 3 separate robotics teams. So it would be us and 2 different robotics teams that are just randomly picked to work with us. Usually before a match, we'll meet up with those 2 other robotics teams and we'll talk to them about strategy and what their robot can do and what ours can do. And usually we work together to kind of figure out the best game plan.
There's a autonomous ranking point, which is all 3 robots move off of a starting line, and then at least 1 robot scores 1 coral anywhere on the reef.
To build the robot, it takes like the whole team, which is about 20 people. And then we need people to program the robot, people to wire the robot. But once we have it all built and on the field, we only need 1 person to control the drive and 1 person to control the elevator and score. We also have a 3rd person who tells them what to do and looks at the whole field and is in charge of strategy.
The main challenge was just building the robot overall. It took about 10 weeks to build. It took a lot of teamwork and cooperation to build such a beautiful machine, and it also helped us learn new machines that normal high school hasn't used before, including mills, CNC machines, long drills, and just all kinds of different things.
This is actually one of the biggest competitions here in Ohio, and it's very diverse, so we'll be competing against some of the top competition today.
This season, this is our last regional. So we participated in Miami Valley, and this will be our last for this season. Our goal is to go home with a blue banner.
I've noticed observing the students' mental health is very important for the safety of the staff as well as everyone in the building.
A lot of our students feel comfortable talking to staff. Many staff members just kind of serve as just a listener, and they counsel where they can.
I've been with the district for almost a year now, so I know mostly everybody's names now. Everybody know my name. So me engaging with the kids, I'm just like an older sister to them. They come to talk to me about anything, and then we all been young before, so we know how it go.
just talking to the scholars, just asking them questions, just something simple as how is their day going, how are they feeling, even something simple as asking them have they ate in the morning, just trying to keep that open line of communication with them, building a level of trust.
And so safety at school definitely matters. Safety en route home from school also matters as well, because if where students are concerned about that, the closer you get to that time, that's where the attention is going to be, even when they're sitting in the classroom.
If the kids don't feel safe, if the climate and culture for them is not safe, then they're not going to be engaged and they're not going to perform well on their tests. And so we don't want them to be in that situation, so we want them to know that we are here for you to support you in a mental capacity. And if you feel safe coming to school, then it should produce some great results when you get into your academics, into your testing.
That's my first priority, to make sure not only the kids feel safe, the staff feel safe, parents feel safe when they come in this building. That's just how I am. I welcome everybody. I just put their shoes in my shoes. Just like if my son in school, I would want him to feel safe while he there. So while I'm here, I want these kids to feel safe.
Would you please go ahead and rewrite the numbers in your notebook so you have them? -1, 5.
I wanted to make sure that my students used education as a powerful tool, not just to get smart, but to change their environment. I have always believed in constructivist knowledge, so instead of me just giving kids information and them soaking it in, we've seen that that doesn't work with students very well. I have given them the tools to construct their learning. They're standing at the boards, they're talking to each other, they're coming up with more than one way to solve a problem. And I think that helps with the different learning styles because they're not just sitting, reading and writing. They're verbally communicating, they're talking to other people, they're collaborating not only with their team, but they can go check their answers at another board if they need to. So those things are included in those different learning styles. So I do try to do like weekly rewards where I acknowledge kids who've done everything that they're supposed to. And so kids who complete all of their tasks, they are recognized. And every day I'll do a shout out for kids who've been on their A game in terms of behavior or in terms of just trying their best. And a lot of times I'll just pull them aside and just say, I'm really proud of what you've done in class, and just sort of give them benchmarks and goals to work towards. Solving problems is just what we do as humans outside of the classroom. So if you can be resilient and know that like maybe you didn't get it right the first time, you go back and you fix it. So even with their bell work, I'll say, if you don't like the grade, I put a comment, go back and fix it. If you don't like your answer, go back and fix it, redo things. So building up knowing that just because you didn't do well the first time, that's not failure, that's it. It's like evolving, it's an iteration of where you are, and go back and just become stronger and better, and don't look at not doing well the first time as failure.
I see paraprofessionals making a difference every single day. The minute they walk in the door with smiles on their face, they're the first people here greeting our scholars, always offering a friendly hello, hands-on work with these kids all day long.
And they just want all of our students to succeed and enjoy school.
My talent is observing and then applying. So a lot of times in the beginning of the school year, I would observe more, see what they like, see what interests them, or seeing what methods help them calm down or get them to actually learn, like whether it's occupational learning or academically learning.
Listening, being patient, being focused on what the children have to say and responding back to them.
There's like a lot of things I didn't know, like from different cultures. Like I've been learning a lot from them. Like there's a lot of things I don't even know from other countries that I've been learning. Every single day I'm learning something with them.
It just feels really good to be part of a team. And you never know, like I said, you might be doing one thing one day and one thing the next, but it all ends up being part of the, like, it takes a village kind of outlook, and it just feels good to be part of a team.
Thank you, Paras.
Thank you, Paras.
Thank you, Paras.
Thank you, Paras.
Thank you, Paras. I love you.
My name is Barbara Davis, and I am the secretary here at Stephanie Tubbs Jones School. I grew up where the original Superman story was born. It inspired me because Superman is something that is not only big for Cleveland, but inspiration behind the creation of his character really brought inspiration to me in creating my characters. So my goal is to bring awareness to bullying amongst the youth, because I also was bullied when I was a child as well. When I grew up, I didn't have any superheroes that looked like me, and I looked around for them, but I couldn't find them. So I figured I can create them. My girls teleport around the world and fight against bullying mentally with the help of Serenity. I think it's pretty cool that I am able to still carry on a legacy that was built in Cleveland, Ohio, based off of Superman, and me being able to build hopefully the first triplet superheroes in Cleveland, starting from the place where Superman was created, is actually a big deal for me, and I'm pretty sure it's a big deal for our community. for the kids to be able to see superheroes that look just like them.
Going on here today is a Meet the Farmer event. So we have this year partnered with 4 Cleveland growers that grow the vegetables that are on the salad bars that are in some of our schools. And the students can meet the farmer. Today we have Farmer Sarah and Farmer Jamel, and they get to meet the farmer that grows their food. They can ask them questions. We have trading cards, and the students get to try the produce items that the farmers grow, and it just encourages them to try something new, to eat fresh vegetables, and they can meet the farmer, and then they get to vote on if they like the produce item or not, and they get fun stickers, and we have if they write on the board of what they liked about the product.
This is one of the youngest demographics that we can have an influence on, and when you're talking about school lunches, this is food that they're going to be eating daily for a majority of the year, right? And so to be able to introduce local foods on a daily basis to students within the Cleveland area is just evolutionary.
We're talking about the benefits of fresh foods and also the difference between local fresh foods and those you might get, say, at a grocery store that might have been shipped from all over the country or world to get to your plate, often picked months and months earlier and don't have the same level of nutrition or flavor. So giving them that experience of eating something that was grown locally and why that's so important and why it's so important to grow your own food.
It was kind of sour. It was sour. And that was my first time ever trying that, but it had a pretty color.
One of our students, they did something special for someone in the community. And so we get all these people here to celebrate and to recognize what Allison did for someone in her community.
That morning while boarding the school bus, you noticed a small child wandering alone on the street, wearing only a t-shirt. Recognizing the danger the child was in, you immediately alerted the bus driver and took action to help. I want to give you a First District Commander's coin. It's got a 1 on the front for the First District and the seal of the Cleveland Division of Police on the back.
And I saw the girl walk out and the bus driver was about to hit her.
And so what did you say to the bus driver?
I was like, stop. And then he told me, who is that? It's like your niece. I was like, no, that's not my niece. And then I went off the bus to go grab her.
It shows a great deal of awareness and maturity for her age. Most kids, like you say, they're on the bus, they're talking, they're on their phone, you know, and the fact that she noticed, she paid attention, you know, to what was going on at that particular time is just, you know, amazing.
I think it's very important because, you know, we're a community. We work together, we help each other, and that's how we get things done, and she's already doing that. Children can teach us a lot, and I think she did. Be aware, look around, help people when you see them in need.
I don't really care about the gifts because it was just the point to save somebody, anybody that need help.
The Cleveland Metropolitan School District School Choice Portal is now open for families to select the school that best fits their scholars' needs. The portal will remain open until February 27th, 2026. To begin, go to choosecmsd.org and click the School Choice Portal. Log in using your credentials. If you don't have an account, you will need to create one using your email address and phone number. You can also change the language on the site. On the welcoming page, your scholar's name should appear. Now, if it does not, click Get Started and add their information. You will need the scholar's 9-digit school ID number, which can be found on the report card, along with their full name as it appears on the report card. You will also need their date of birth and address. When you are done, hit save and continue. On the next page, families impacted by the Building Brighter Futures initiative will first see a page informing them of the seat reserved at the designated welcoming school. The welcoming school name will appear grayed out. You will then choose one of two options. I want my student to attend the designated welcoming school, or I want to apply to other schools. If you accept the welcoming school, the next question will ask about siblings. If there are siblings, add their information to ensure they can attend the same school, if you choose. Next is school selection. Click the box for your welcoming school to confirm it is your first and only choice. You will then confirm that choice. If you don't want to accept the welcoming school, click I want to apply to other schools. Your child will have priority seating at other schools if space is available. On the school selection page, you can view a map and search by school name or distance to find a school best suited for your child. You may select up to 5 schools and rank them in order of preference. This process is the same for 8th grade families choosing a high school for next year. After ranking your choices, confirm them. You will also need to submit digital signatures for both the caregiver and scholar. You'll review your choices and then submit your application. Please note, once you submit your application, you cannot make any changes online. If you need to make changes or have questions about the process, contact the Office of School Choice and Enrollment at 216-838-3675. If you are unsure about your choice at this time, you can save your application until you are ready to submit. School assignments will be announced the week of March 30th. Scholars at co-located high schools do not need to make a choice unless they want to explore other options for the 2026-27 school year. Now is the time to choose the best path for your scholar's future. Visit choosecmsd.org today and make your selection before February 27th. Your choice, your school, your future. Together, we're building brighter futures.
Looking for the right school for your child? CMSD School Finder makes it easy. Here's how to explore your options. With the CMSD School Finder, you search by interest or location. There is an interactive map displaying all the schools in the district. You can view each school's profile and even compare schools. Want to narrow it down? Use the filters to search by grade level, programs, career pathways, and sports offered at each school. And here's the best part. Type in your home address and instantly you'll see the schools closest to you. Plus, you can see the distance a school is to your home to determine if transportation will be available to your scholar. It's simple, fast, and designed to help families make confident choices. So go ahead, explore, compare, and find the school that feels like home. Your child's future starts here.
Hi, I'm Darielle Snipes with CMSD Communications. Today, I am so excited. I am hanging out with 2 of the Senate League girls flag football teams, John Hay and Rhodes. This sport is gaining popularity. Right now, CMSD has 7 teams. I'm so excited to learn more about flag football. Let's go. Joining me now is head coach of the John Hay ladies flag football team, Coach Vanetta Kreider. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I know this is an exciting sport. It's a growing sport. It just got sanctioned by the Ohio High School Athletic Association. That's exciting news. Yes. So now your girls can go for state championships. Yes. But you know, some of us were brand new to flag football. Tell me, what is the difference between flag football and just basic football?
The difference for flag football and basic football for our girls is that we actually get to compete this year. Outside of only using flags and not be able to contact each other, and we have to wear mouthpieces.
Okay, but just talk about the growing popularity of this girls sport and how exciting it is, especially here in CMSD and the Senate League.
Yes, right now it means that girls flag football is now recognized by OSHA. So now we get more opportunities to get school funding. So luckily we're a Division I school, so we had about 40 girls that come and try out. So this year we were expecting even more.
I mean, what do you think about that more girls want to play football?
I'm excited. I'm excited to teach them and for them to want to be competitive and lead and get outside of their comfort zone.
The fact that it's, you know, when people think about football, they think about it as a male-dominated sport. The fact that flag football, especially girls flag football, is taking off, it gives young ladies an opportunity to play what once was known as a male-dominated sport. Can you just talk about that opportunity for them?
Yes, it now gives the girls a platform to compete and lead, and we're breaking stereotypes and proving that football isn't just for boys. Anybody can play as long as you got the passion and the skill for it.
And joining me now are two players from the girls flag football team at Rhodes. Welcome. Tell me your names and what grade you're in.
I'm Aaliyah. I go to Rhodes Environmental Studies and I'm in 10th grade.
My name is Naya. I go to RCCA and I'm in 10th grade.
Wonderful. So just tell me, because I don't know, I'm learning, what is the difference between flag football and football?
Well, flag football and regular football, we already know it's not as much contact, but there's a lot you can do. Like the quarterback can't run.
The ball is smaller, less people on the field, so it gives. And flag is it's quick. It's not like football. Football you have more time. Flag is quick, and you have like less time.
Okay, and then you also have the flags. Yeah. How hard or easy is it to get another opponent's flag?
It depends on how fast the person is moving.
Yeah, definitely.
And what moves they're pulling out. But usually, if you're catching up to the person, it's very easy. They're not hard to pull or nothing, so.
So tell me, why did you guys want to join the team?
Well, I wanted to join the team because ever since I was like very young, I always played regular football with my brothers. And when I got older, I realized like it was something I always wanted to do. In like 2023, I played flag football with boys, but then I got scouted for a girls team, and we went all the way to nationals in Las Vegas and won a championship ring there. And then when I came here, there was no flag football team, so I asked if I could play tackle. But my mom wouldn't let me, and then I found out later on we had a flag football team, and I was like, oh, this is my sport, so I'm definitely going to play.
I also feel like a sport that was really made for boys that girls never really got the opportunity to play. When I saw it at Rhodes, I feel like a sport that was always classified as like a boys sport, girls being able to play, I feel like that was really cool, so I really wanted to take that opportunity to play. And also, Coach Arnold, she really inspired me to play. She was the assistant basketball coach, and it really gave me something to do, and now it's something I really would do the rest of my years in high school and see where it takes me.
Right, so this is the second season for the team. Just talk about how fun it is and just the team camaraderie that you ladies have.
It was very fun. Like in the first year, it was some rough patches, but we always got through it. Our coach, she's a very great coach because she is like more informational about flag football than basketball. So when she is out here, she put her hearts on the field just like we do.
Yeah, Coach O'Neill, she really great. She keeps us all lifted up. Like something could go wrong, and she was always bringing the joy. It was like our first year was really fun. We went real far, and just seeing where it took us, it made me excited for the next season to come. Like what we gonna bring to the table, and flag. Like I didn't expect it to be like I thought it was just gonna be something to do. But when we actually started playing, I'm like, it's fun. Like it's really fun.
Now another difference is that flag football is played in the spring and not in the fall like regular football. Well, can you just talk about the fact that now it is a sanctioned sport, and so now you guys can go for a state championship. Just talk about you guys could be the state champs.
That's very exciting to me because, like I said, I always love football in general. So for me to have this opportunity to probably ever get scholarships to play in college is just like something I want to achieve.
I think that's really good. Like it opens up more opportunities for the girls and gives girls something to do because we always, as a girl, we always like doubt it, or we don't always get as much opportunity, so it just opens the door for girls sports.
Now it's still, even though you guys don't have pads and a helmet, it still can be tough. I mean, it's still it's still a contact sport, would you not say?
Like you're definitely gonna fall. You're definitely gonna
get bumps.
But it's fun.
Yes, it's very exciting.
All right, well thank you ladies.
What you see before you is a culmination of 2.5 years of work. But moreover, it was 86 years of blood, sweat, and tears put forth by men and women who comprise the Tuskegee experiment. Let history show that in the course of human endeavor, that never have so many owed so much to so few.
My first reaction was it looked a lot better than I did it in class. It took a lot, and it's just, I'm proud to see that it's up there, and I'm glad everyone else can see it too. I think it's good that the Tuskegee Airmen get their wore it out and their faces out because they helped this world, and I'm glad that I was able to help them represent it. I seen everyone do their painting in class. I seen like their entire process through it, and now looking at it inside the airport, it's like, wow, they did that. That's amazing.
My name is Lori Lane.
Session. The chair will now entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 19.01, authorizing the termination of a teaching employee.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Thank you. Dr. Morgan, any comment or explanation?
This is a recommendation for the termination of a teaching employee.
Any discussion from board members? Hearing no discussion, Mr. Stockdale, please call the roll.
Ms. Ellicott?
Yes.
Mr. Billups?
Yes.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Pastor Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBron?
Yes.
Mrs. Peak?
Yes.
Motion passes with 7 votes.
Thank you. The resolution passes. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn this board work session.
So moved. Second.
Hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.